Chapter 328. The two of them walked noisily until dusk. The prairie at night was filled with danger and the two of them were injured. For safety's sake, they found a safe little forest to rest in. Chu Tian swallowed a few more pills and began to heal his injuries. As expected, he was in a terrible state. Because he had overused his strength, he had damaged many of his meridians, and because he had overdrawn his strength during the battle, his vitality had been damaged. This was the most serious injury Chu Tian had suffered since he arrived in this era. He wouldn't be able to recover even after 10-15 days. The most troublesome thing was that if it wasn't treated in time, there would be repercussions that would cause irreparable damage to his body. Meng Qingwu placed a heated can in front of Chu Tian. Eat it. This was made from level 2 demon beast meat. When an awakened soul cultivator's body was weak, they only needed to eat this can to recover most of their strength. Meng Qingwu looked around. Where's the little fox? It's cleaning up the aura we left behind. Chu Tian ate the can in 2-3 bites and the healing pill began to show its effects, making his body feel a bit more comfortable. The warhounds are made up of wolf tribe spirit beasts and the wolf tribe is famous for being good at tracking. If it wasn't for the little fox cleaning up the aura, we would have been attacked many times already. Meng Qingwu was very curious about the little fox's origin. This little fellow is not simple, it has a strong potential and strength. When I saw it transform today, its aura was very familiar to me. It was very similar to an ancient great desolate demonic beast. Great desolate demonic beast? Chu Tian knew the young miss abilities. The heavenly book source spirit contained a large amount of knowledge and memories, so as long as it was stimulated, it would awaken. Even Chu Tian didn't know about the little fox's origin, so how could Meng Qingwu know? Demonic beasts and demon beasts sounded similar, but there was actually a large difference. Most demonic beasts had high intelligence and were good at using strange demonic techniques. This was very similar to the little fox's abilities, so it was very possible that the little fox was a demonic beast. Chu Tian asked, "How much do you know?" "Not too much. The inherited memories in my source spirit don't have much information on this." Meng Qingwu pondered for a few minutes and said, "Legend has it that in the early days of the primordial chaos, there was a kind of primordial demon race that coexisted with gods and demons. Among these demon race leaders, there was a most famous and powerful existence. It was unpredictable and unpredictable, but its original body was a 9-tailed demon fox." 9-tailed demon fox? Chu Tian remembered what happened in the Central State Trial Tower. Could the little fox be the descendant of that great ancient demon? If it was a descendant of the demon race, then it could be explained why the little fox could use so many strange demonic techniques. Meng Qingwu shook her head. "I can't be sure, but the little fox's background is definitely not that simple." Chu Tian was deep in thought. The little fox's body was a 9-tailed fox monster and Chu Tian's source spirit was the 9-eyed demon god. What was the relationship between the two? Was it a coincidence that they met? 9 was the extreme number, it represented supremacy. Chu Tian shook his head and did not think too much about it. No matter what the little fox's background was, it was still an infant at most and did not have any strength. The great ancient demon beasts had an incomparably long lifespan and it would take tens of thousands of years to reach adulthood. How could a human raise it with their short lifespan? Perhaps Chu Tian pursuing the path of immortality was the only way out. In the silent night, the darkness stretched as far as the eye could see. The cold of the midnight and the sense of danger was like an invisible hand that shrouded the two of them at all times. Meng Qingwu was worried about the warhounds, but she was even more afraid of the demon beasts hunting on the prairies, so she did not dare sleep. At this time, a hand patted Meng Qingwu's shoulder. "Don't worry, the little fox is nearby. If anything approaches, it will not be able to escape the little fox's vigilance, so you can rest in peace." Meng Qingwu was indeed very tired. She gently leaned against Chu Tian's shoulder and closed her eyes to fall asleep. Chu Tian continued to heal his injuries. Actually, this could be considered a blessing in disguise. Chu Tian had gone beyond his limits and although it was a large injury to his body, it had stimulated his potential. If his injuries could be healed this time, Chu Tian's cultivation would increase by a large amount and it would not be impossible for him to step into the true soul realm. When there was a glimmer of light in the eastern sky, Chu Tian came out of his meditative state. After taking a few saint pills with him, although they couldn't completely repair his injuries, they were able to greatly alleviate them. At the very least, his overdrawn spirit energy would recover a bit and he would be able to fight, no longer needing to worry about the demon beasts of the prairie. Meng Qingwu was leaning against his shoulder, breathing evenly, already dead asleep. He gently pushed Meng Qingwu. Young miss, it's almost dawn, wake up." At this moment, Meng Qingwu's entire body was leaning against Chu Tian's body and her two hands were tightly holding onto Chu Tian's arm. Her beautiful face was covered in dirt, but it did not lose any of its charm and instead became even more charming. The young Miss Beauty could be described as 360 degrees without any blind spots. Ah! Meng Qingwu woke up with a start, feeling a little embarrassed. She originally wanted to rest for a while, but just by leaning on Chu Tian's body, his aura made her feel peaceful, and she actually unknowingly fell asleep. What was going on? Meng Qingwu couldn't help but have goosebumps. She had always been an independent and sharp person since she was young. Furthermore, Meng Qingwu's vigilance was very heavy. Other than her younger sister, she would always have a trace of basic vigilance in her heart. Even if she was sleeping at home, it was impossible for her to sleep so deeply. Could it be that deep in her heart, she already had a deep trust in the fellow in front of her? This feeling made Meng Qingwu feel a bit conflicted and confused, not knowing what to do. "Let's quickly leave." Chu Tian did not pay attention to the young Miss' complex psychological changes. When he got up, he saw Meng Qingwu sitting on the ground and said with a puzzled expression, "Young miss, what are you doing? Let's go." "I'm an injured person, how can I walk with my leg like this?" Meng Qingwu said confidently and even had a bit of a spoiled feeling. "It's not like you're carrying me. When you were sleeping, I used my spirit energy to disperse the poison in your bones. Now its healing is pretty good and your injury is basically under control. This leg can be considered saved and you can walk." Chu Tian said in a snappy manner, "You still want to kick my butt? Save it." Meng Qingwu found that her thigh had been bandaged and the pain from the wound was no longer like before. Her face instantly turned hot and she wished she could dig a hole in the ground. At the same time, she fiercely cursed Chu Tian in her heart. "This blockhead! Letting you carry me was letting you take advantage of me, but you actually refused? Angering me to death." The fox led the way as the two of them headed towards the south. After one or two life and death experiences, the young miss had opened up her heart and the two of them had become much closer. But strangely, the closer they got, the harder it was to see the young miss. This normally dignified, beautiful, cautious, and intelligent female merchant actually had a side that no one knew about. Sometimes she was bold, sometimes she was cute, and sometimes she was emotional. This woman, it was really hard to understand. The facts proved that the adjustment last night was correct. The two of them had recovered quite well, so their speed had increased. After several hours of rushing, they were less than 500 miles away from Imperial City. This place was already within Imperial City's sphere of influence, so it was relatively safe. Those pursuers riding vultures should not be able to catch up. Chu Tian looked into the distance. There are Imperial City patrols nearby or Imperial City scouts. As long as we can find someone, we can get a fast horse or a beast carriage. Then it will be much easier. The young miss gave a sigh. "I hope so." This kind of high-speed movement consumed spirit energy and physical strength. Physical strength was very precious right now, so it was best to save as much as possible. It was best to have a fast horse. But when the two of them were about to let out a sigh of relief, the little fox suddenly cried out in alarm, "Gee, gee." A loud sound came from the sky, just like a thunderclap. There was nothing in the sky before, but now there was a giant blue hawk. It was around 20 feet long and 40 feet wide. Each feather seemed like it was carved from blue crystals and there were arcs of lightning around it. This was clearly a very strong demon beast. "Be careful." Chu Tian suddenly jumped onto Meng Qingwu beside him. A bolt of lightning flashed across the ground, creating a giant scorch mark. When the two of them felt this power, their hearts filled with fear. This Thunderhawk's strength was at least in the peak ninth awakened soul layer. The little fox bared its teeth and its originally black eyes suddenly turned a demonic green. Its small body suddenly swelled and it instantly turned into a 20-foot-tall demonic fox. After the little fox transformed, the demonic green light in its eyes became even stronger. The Thunderhawk in the sky gave a painful cry and a green light appeared in the depths of the hawk's eyes. The green light quickly expanded and finally covered the entire pupil. The Thunder Eagle beast let out a sharp cry and suddenly calmed down from its anxious state. Its thoughts had clearly been controlled by the little fox, but the Thunder Eagle beast was too strong. Although the little fox could control it, it was very hard to control its movements, so the Thunder Eagle beast seemed to be frozen. Interesting. This Thunderhawk is at least in the peak ninth awakened soul layer. To be able to control its thoughts, your spirit beast is not simple. Meng Qingwu now found that there was a spirit beast standing on the back of the Thunderhawk. This person had a tall and sturdy figure, with a simple black blade in his hand. His body was filled with a strong power that seemed like it came from the Netherworld. Nether Flame Blade Malam, the Warhounds tribe's true spirit expert. His arrival was like a messenger from Nether Prison, making people tremble in fear. Malam was not in a rush to make a move and looked at them with a ridiculing gaze. Your aura hiding skills are not bad, making this search for an entire night. If it wasn't for you revealing your tracks this morning, even I would not have been able to find you. Wasting this much of my time, have you thought about what price you should pay? Chapter 329. They still couldn't escape this misfortune in the end? Now that they were about to enter Imperial City's territory, they never thought that a true spirit realm expert would personally chase after them. How could Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu resist a true spirit realm expert? The little fox was tied down by the Thunderhawk, so it couldn't help them at this moment. Cripple your own cultivation and come with me. Malam was not in a rush. You can suffer less this way. Chu Tian considered the situation in front of him. I can go with you, but you have to let her go. You can't. Meng Qingwu quickly said, Chu Tian, you can't go with them. Chu Tian of course did not want to mix with these Warhounds fellows, but the current situation was not good for the two of them. They could only think of a way to deal with it first. At least they could keep their little lives and find a way to escape later. Prisoners of war do not have the qualifications to talk about conditions. What if I still have a bargaining chip in my hand? Bargaining chip? Is it because of the power contained in your body? It can't be denied that it is very strong, but do you really have the ability to use it again? Malam gently sniffed. I can smell the aura coming from your blood. You are very weak, very weak. If you use it again, you will definitely die. If I die, your mission will fail. Malam broke out in laughter again. A prisoner of war is actually threatening the victor with suicide? Let me tell you, your life is not important at all. Even if you die today, as long as you can bring your corpse back, it will be enough. You're speaking too much nonsense. I'll kill this woman first. The black blade was ignited in flames and a terrifying energy fluctuation created a wild wind. When it blew across the prairie, it was like a wave was being released. I'll stake it all with you. Chu Tian floated in the air and released a powerful fluctuation. Malam never thought that Chu Tian would actually dare to resist. Then let me see how much this power can be used. Nether flames. The black blade was ignited in flames and when it merged with Malam's source spirit, it turned into a demon covered in black flames. It shot out at Chu Tian like a meteor. Chu Tian! Meng Qingwu shouted in panic. This was the attack of a true spirit realm expert's source spirit. This kind of attack was not something an awakened soul cultivator could withstand. Chu Tian formed a seal with his hands, and his eyes suddenly opened. 7 demonic pupils appeared in his eyes, and a huge power was added to his body, instantly turning him into a gigantic 9-eyed demon god. The evil spirit burning with black flames didn't even have time to approach. It was instantly intimidated by the pressure and dissipated in midair. Here it comes. It was this power. Malam revealed a crazed expression. How could such a weak person possess such great power? If this energy could be extracted and spewed into the space in front of Chu Tian, it would eventually form a layer of spatial fluctuations that were hard to see with the naked eye. Boom! The burning black evil ghost was directly shattered by the shockwave. Malum revealed a shocked expression. This person seemed to have many attributes of his source spirit, and he could freely switch between them. When he was in the fort, he had used his soul-attributed energy, instantly harvesting the souls of 5 peak 9th awakened soul layer experts. Other than that, he at least had the ability to use spatial energy. For example, he could teleport or use spatial fluctuations. These were all controlled from the source of space. Spatial energy, this was a legendary innate talent. Even in a giant empire, there were very few people with spatial energy. This person seemed to be able to use spatial energy. This completely subverted Malum's imagination. But so what if the other side was strong? Malum said with a cold smile, "Your vitality is quickly weakening. If you keep fighting, you're dead for sure. I'll give you one last chance. Surrender to me and pledge your loyalty to the warhounds and you can live." Malum was right. Chu Tian had released the power of his main source spirit twice, which had an unimaginable effect on him. Although his body had reached the second layer of the Starlight Immortal body, his physique was still too weak. Adding in the fact that his cultivation was not high enough, he could not resist the pressure of his source spirit on his body. Chu Tian blocked Malum's attack and all the blood vessels in his body ruptured again. Large amounts of blood came out of his pores and he couldn't stop sweating, instantly soaking his entire body. One attack. He could only make one more attack. Chu Tian was already at his limit. If he didn't care about the consequences, he would only have one more chance to attack. If he could kill Malum with this attack, the young miss would be able to return safely. If he couldn't kill Malum with this attack, the two of them would die here. Of course, even if it was the former, Chu Tian might not be able to survive. Now it all depended on luck. The 9-eyed demon god closed 8 of its eyes and only opened one eye. This eye corresponded to the faint golden pupil in Chu Tian's eye. An invisible power instantly exploded with Chu Tian as the center. What kind of attack was this? Malum did not feel any elemental energy fluctuations, but he felt a strong power that covered the world around him. He couldn't help feeling a panic that was hard to suppress because this power did not seem to have any defenses. It could pass through all energy and objects, so all defenses were useless against it. Malum felt his vision darken as the entire world collapsed. There was a power affecting his mind that stripped away all of Malum's senses and pulled him into a silent and dark space. Was this a spiritual attack? Malum could already faintly feel it. This power should be spiritual energy, but it was merged with the user's consciousness. In short, this was a form of divine sense. Chu Tian's divine sense had reached the mind's lamp realm and Chu Tian's spirit energy was very weak, so he could not handle other kinds of energy. So, using a divine sense attack was the safest method for Chu Tian and it was also the most suitable method for Malum to use. A divine sense attack was a spiritual attack. A spiritual attack was invisible and without a trace. Unless one had a strong divine sense or had a source spirit or cultivation technique, any kind of defense would be useless against it. The Warhounds tribe was a spirit beast race. The spirit beast's deep spiritual domain research was almost negligible and Malum's source spirit was not a spiritual type. Although he didn't know what realm his divine sense had reached, it should be at the mind's eye level. Chu Tian's cultivation base could not compare to Malum's, but his divine sense surpassed Malum's. Therefore, he used a divine sense attack, using his strength to attack the enemy's weakness. Endless purgatory. Malum felt a cold and terrifying voice explode in his mind. His surroundings began to change and he felt like he had arrived in a world of lava. Beneath his feet was lava and there were burning red iron pillars that rose high up from the lava. A ferocious demon with the head of a bull and body of a human was covered in hot lava. He held a burning red chain in his hand as he charged at Malum with a ferocious expression. Shwa! The chains in the ox-headed demon's hands instantly shot out and bound Malum's body. The flames attached to the chains made Malum feel an indescribable pain. It was as if the flames were not only burning his body, but also his mind and soul. Scram! Malum roared out as he broke free, causing the chain to shatter. A black blade slashed out and the Minotaur demon gave a pitiful cry before turning into flames. You want to kill me with this kind of insignificant skill? Before Malum's voice fell, several outlines appeared around the lava lake. They were all terrifying demons with bull heads and human bodies. These monsters slowly rose up from the lava lake, each one holding a flaming iron lock in their hands. Malum felt like he was in a trance. He felt like his body had been split in two and there were two Malums in this space. They could even look at each other, but what was strange was that these two Malums were controlled by the same will. The Minotaur demon waved the burning chains to attack. Malum raised the black blade to cut the chains, instantly cutting apart several Minotaur demons. What Malum never thought was that his other body would be hit by the chains and that unbearable pain instantly spread through his body and spirit. How could this be? Malum had two bodies in this space and both bodies had their senses, but his consciousness was still the same, so the two bodies were not divided. It was like Malum's left and right hand being controlled by his consciousness. In other words, if Malum protected his left hand and his right hand was injured, Malum would still feel intense pain. Damn it! What kind of evil technique was this? Malum controlled two bodies to repel the Minotaur demons at the same time. The third wave of Minotaur demons appeared. What made Malum feel fear and despair was that the number of Minotaur demons kept increasing and Malum's bodies kept increasing. When the third wave began, there were 18 Minotaur demons and Malum's bodies had become 3. A normal person's consciousness could only control one body. Now that his consciousness was connected to 3 bodies, Malum's control over his body became very stiff and he often made mistakes in his control. The worst part was that if any body was attacked, it would cause unimaginable pain. If all 3 bodies were attacked at the same time, Malum's consciousness would suffer 3 times the pain. The third wave of Minotaur demons was defeated. The fourth wave of Minotaur demons appeared. There were 36 of them and Malum's bodies became 4. Malum almost lost control of his body and could only watch as the Minotaur demons wildly attacked. The 5th wave, the 6th wave, the 7th wave. Malum's bodies became more and more numerous and he completely lost control of his body. Each body was hit by a whip. Malum instantly felt several dozen waves of extreme pain attack him at the same time. Malum almost fainted, but in this spiritual space, he was not allowed to faint. Malum's body was still splitting and the number of Minotaur demons in the space was still increasing. The 100th wave. The 1000th wave. The 10,000th wave. It was like Malum had tens of thousands of bodies and each body was tied to a red pillar by the Minotaur demons. Each body was being tortured by tens of thousands of Minotaur demons. Even the smallest torture, when magnified by 10,000 times, was enough to cause a large amount of damage. Not to mention that Malum's tens of thousands of bodies were enduring unimaginable torture. All of this gathered into a torrent of pain that fiercely attacked his mind and soul. Malum's mind exploded like glass. Chapter 330. This kind of attack had never been heard of before. The endless duplication of pain, the endless creation of torture, when the unbearable mental torture was magnified by 10,000 times, then the instant impact on the spirit, this was like a monstrous wave, slamming heavily on the weak dam. The result was almost no suspense. Malum was perhaps a warrior with extremely strong willpower. Only, the mental torture was enough to collapse any warrior, not to mention multiplying it by 10,000 times. Even the strongest warrior in the world would die from a mental breakdown after receiving such a terrifying attack. Even if they survived, they would most likely become crazy. This was endless purgatory. Chu Tian's incomparably powerful divine sense attack. That pain and torture continued to attack the mental dam, causing his entire mental structure to collapse. When Malum's consciousness was about to collapse, the purgatory-like spiritual world popped like a bubble. The 9-eyed demon god's power disappeared. Chu Tian's face was pale and he was covered in sweat. Damn, just a little bit more. Malum was thrown back into the real world and with a pitiful cry, he fell to the ground. His body twitched and his mind was heavily injured, temporarily unable to recover. His mind hadn't completely collapsed. Malam's cultivation was higher than Chu Tian's, and because of his advantage in cultivation, as well as his strong willpower, Chu Tian could not directly suppress him. He could resist a bit of the divine sense attack in the beginning, but this had consumed quite a bit of Chu Tian's strength. So the entire attack had not been fully displayed and had been forcefully interrupted, so it could not completely collapse Malam's mind. This is bad. He really did not have the strength to launch a second attack. Meng Qingwu did not know what had happened because the flow of time in the spiritual world was different from the material world. Chu Tian had tortured Malam for an entire day and night in the spiritual world, but it had only been a few seconds in the real world. It was hard for bystanders to feel the entire process. All Meng Qingwu could see was that Chu Tian had glared at Malam and Malam had been seriously injured, almost losing control of his mind. As for Chu Tian, he had collapsed to the ground. What had happened? Chu Tian fell to the ground, unable to move. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Fox, take this opportunity to finish him off." The little fox's eyes released an emerald green glow. It used all its strength to control the Thunderhawk's mind. The Thunderhawk's beak turned blue and condensed a thin bolt of lightning. The Thunder Eagle was also resisting the little fox. The little fox gave a sharp cry and the Thunderhawk's body trembled. The little fox's divine sense completely penetrated the Thunderhawk's mind and the Thunderhawk was finally controlled by the little fox, letting out a clear cry. Damn it. Malam's entire body was trembling and he couldn't even pick up his blade. "My body? I will kill you. I'm going to kill you." Now Chu Tian was unconscious. Malam had suffered a serious mental injury and it was very difficult to recover from mental injuries. The severe side effects would most likely follow him for the rest of his life, but at the very least, Malam was still alive after receiving such a fierce attack. On the other hand, Chu Tian was unable to resist because he had used too much strength. You all have to die. Malam's body trembled as he knelt down. His eyes seemed like they couldn't focus as he shook his head. His eyes were red as he gave a low roar like a wild beast as he reached out to pick up the blade on the ground. Hell nether flames. The trembling blade released a surging flame that spread indiscriminately in all directions. Malam clearly didn't have a way to accurately attack, so he could only use his true spirit realm cultivation to attack over a large area, killing everyone at once. The Thunder Eagle let out a sharp cry as it swooped down. A streak of lightning struck Malam's body and instantly sent Malam flying, heavily landing on the ground. He did not hold onto the long blade and it flew several dozen meters away. A black fire dragon swept across the ground in an instant, creating a deep scar that was startling to the eye. Malam stood up with a roar of unwillingness. When the Thunderhawk swooped down with its claws, he used his bare hand to block it. Half of his body was pushed into the ground and the Thunderhawk flapped its wings, wanting to fly away. Malam released his spirit energy with a roar and a terrifying power locked onto the Thunderhawk's body, slamming it into the ground. He wanted to tear the Thunderhawk in half. The little fox was anxious. If the Thunderhawk was killed, there really wouldn't be any other way. The little fox did not have a strong body and its demonic techniques only had summoning and control abilities. It was only effective against demon beasts, so it had no way of dealing with Malam. At this critical moment, Meng Qingwu decisively pulled out Chu Tian's netherworld sword and quickly charged at Malam. While Malam was wildly swinging the Thunderhawk, she stabbed her sword at Malam's back. Meng Qingwu was sent flying 4-5 meters with spirit energy. She felt a sharp pain in her wrist like her joints were sprained. The other side was too strong. Even if he was delirious, she couldn't easily injure him. The little fox found a magazine beside Chu Tian and it immediately went to pick it up. This was a magazine filled with blood-in steel needles. The little fox bit out the needles and swallowed them before waving its claws at Meng Qingwu. Meng Qingwu nodded. The little fox spat out several blood-in steel needles and each one was covered in a demonic technique. They shot at Malam at a speed close to the speed of sound. Malam was delirious right now. How could he distinguish this kind of attack? He didn't even maintain his protective spirit energy, and all the needles landed on Malam's divine sense. There were even 2 needles that directly stabbed into his eyes. Ah! Malam wildly roared as he randomly swept out with his claws, creating 5 deep claw marks in the grass. This was an attack from a true spirit realm expert, so if he was hit, he would die without a doubt. However, Malam was delirious, so it was hard for him to accurately hit Meng Qingwu. Meng Qingwu had to take this risk. She raised Chu Tian's netherworld sword and looked at Malam. There was only one chance, so she had to succeed. At this time, the netherworld sword began to glow. A faint blue and white flame covered the sword blade. Meng Qingwu was very surprised. This sword had lent its power to her, but Meng Qingwu was clearly not the netherworld sword's master. This was the difference between the netherworld sword and a normal soul-contracting weapon. A normal soul-contracting weapon's weapon spirit did not have a high ability to think, but the netherworld sword's weapon spirit already had its own consciousness. So when Meng Qingwu picked up the sword, the weapon spirit, netherworld, would decide whether or not to resist. Now that Chu Tian had fainted from his heavy injuries, Meng Qingwu had to kill the spirit beast to save her master's life. Therefore, the netherworld sword did not resist Meng Qingwu, rather it took the initiative to increase the might of this attack. Meng Qingwu took out all her spirit energy and suddenly jumped forward. The sword blade left a blue and white trail as it slashed at Malam's neck, directly cutting off Malam's head. Blood sprayed out. This Warhounds tribe's peak expert had died in the hands of the weak and innate battle talent Meng Qingwu in the end. Meng Qingwu never thought that she would have the chance to kill a true spirit realm expert. The little fox let out a sigh of relief. Its little life was finally saved. Meng Qingwu searched Malam's body a few times and found a small delicate bag. Meng Qingwu could feel a faint spatial energy in the bag, so it should be a spatial item, which was a storage bag. Although it only had 5 cubic meters of space, it was still a spatial item. Meng Qingwu didn't have time to see what was inside. She casually took Malam's black long blade and returned to Chu Tian's side. She laid down on his chest and listened. His heartbeat was slow and weak, but he shouldn't be dead. Meng Qingwu was not clear on how serious Chu Tian's injuries were, but it should not be good. Meng Qingwu carried Chu Tian on her back as she headed in the direction of Imperial City with gritted teeth. Yesterday Chu Tung carried her, and today it was her turn to carry Chu Tian. The 2 of them were truly a pair of enemies. But Meng Qingwu did not go too far. Around several dozen kilometers away, she found a southern Xia sentry post. When Chu Tian showed his identity, the sentry captain brought out a beast carriage and personally sent the 2 of them back to Imperial City. Imperial City was already in chaos. The great scholar Gu Qianxiu had brought the news of the front lines falling a day earlier than Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu. Gu Qianxiu was also heavily injured when he returned to Imperial City. Because many people had personally witnessed it, the news could not be blocked at all, causing many people to panic. In just a short day, several thousand soldiers had escaped from the front lines. The news these people brought back shocked the citizens of Imperial City. The Fang King had led the Warhounds army to attack the front lines, and the entire defensive line had collapsed. The Southern Summer King who was patrolling had been assassinated by the traitor Wang Tunlong. 2 large pieces of bad news had arrived at the same time. The entire Imperial City was not prepared for this at all. Now that the calm martial ruler was away, the Tsang state battlefield was in a stalemate. Even if the calm martial ruler received the news, he wouldn't be able to come back in time. Even if Imperial City had 400,000 soldiers and 2,000 Griffin Knights, could they stop the Warhounds' army? When the Southern Summer King fell, he appointed the calm martial ruler, Dongfang Gan, as the next king. Perhaps even the Southern Summer King did not think that the situation in southern Xia would deteriorate to this degree. The Warhounds' army had broken through the defensive line in a single day and were now heading towards Imperial Xia City. There would be a large battle in just a few days. Whether it was the leaders of the country or the military, they were all empty. The entire country was in a state of panic and the situation was very dangerous. At this time, Miracle Commerce's Meng Qingwu had brought Chu Tian back. Meng Qingwu was a famous person in Imperial City and was even called the #1 beauty in Southern Summer. This time, Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu had gone with the Southern Summer King to inspect the defensive line, so when the warhounds broke through, the two of them were most likely dead. No one would have thought that Meng Qingwu would actually come back alive. Meng Qingwu had come back alive, but she did not look relaxed at all. Her snow-white clothes were covered in mud and blood, her hair was messy, and her face was haggard and weak. She was limping as she walked. It was clear that her leg was injured. Chu Tian's situation was even worse. He was currently unconscious and his life signs were very weak. Elder sister, Chu Tan, Meng Yingying, Nangong Yun, and the others had been worried for an entire day in Imperial City. When they learned that the two of them had safely returned, they excitedly rushed out to greet them. "You guys scared me to death." Meng Yingying's eyes were filled with tears as she tightly hugged Meng Qingwu. "You two are Yingying's most important people. If anything happened to either of you, I wouldn't be able to live." Meng Qingwu patted Meng Yingying's back and also let out a sigh of relief. "There were several times when I thought I would never see you again, but it was all thanks to Chu Tian risking his life that I was able to come back. But Chu Tian's situation is not good." Meng Yingying's nerves tensed up. When she saw Chu Tian's body covered in blood, she couldn't help covering her mouth. What happened to Chu Tian? How did he get injured? How are his injuries? I don't know either. Chu Tian was not injured. Most of his injuries were caused by himself. As for how serious his injuries were, Meng Qingwu could not guess, but looking at his weak life signs, it was very serious. "Then what are you still doing here?" Nangong Yun came over and carried Chu Tian. "Yingying, quickly go to the research institute and call out those old men. Let them take a look at Chu Tian." Chapter 331. In Miracle Commerce's headquarters. Meng Yingying was sitting beside Chu Tian rubbing her red eyes while Nangong Yun was comforting her. Chen Bingyu, Feng Kaidai, Yun Yao, and the others all had pained expressions on their faces. There was a group of old men whispering to each other, but they couldn't hear what they were discussing. They just had their brows knit together or were constantly sighing. The entire room was filled with a pessimistic atmosphere. "Are you guys done yet? Have you seen anything after looking at him for so long?" Nangong Yun had a fiery temper and couldn't help exploding. She anxiously scratched her head and shouted, "You only know how to sigh, sigh my ass. What's the situation right now? Can boss be saved or not? Just give us a quick answer." Meng Qingwu and her sister's hearts were in their throats. This was what they wanted to know. "Don't be excited, don't be excited." Zhao Pu gave a few awkward coughs. "Forgive me for being blunt, the chairman's situation is very bad. All his organs are showing signs of failing and there are many broken meridians. His spirit energy is weakening, but this is not the main reason. The chairman cultivates the starlight immortal body, so his physique is very strong and his recovery rate is very high. Otherwise, if it was a normal person, they would have already died. The most troublesome part is that the chairman has overdrawn his vitality." Meng Yingying nervously asked, "His vitality is lost? What does that mean?" Old Zhao's meaning is that the chairman might have forcefully used a forbidden technique with large side effects. This forbidden technique might have burned his vitality as a price, so it caused a serious overdrawing of his vitality. Simply put, if the chairman could live to be 100 years old, he might not even be 50 years old right now. Moreover, his vitality is still weakening. How could it be like this? Everyone revealed a look of shock. This side effect was too terrifying. Chu Tian was still this young. If his vitality was damaged early, wouldn't that be a very bad thing? Meng Qingwu finally understood. Although Chu Tian had a heaven-defying strength, he rarely used it. The main reason was because if he used this strength too much, not only would it attract the attention of others, it would also be very dangerous for him. Meng Yingying was at a loss. Then what should we do? Right now, there's still hope to recover from the initial damage. If it takes too long and causes the lost vitality to completely solidify, then it'll be harder than ascending to heaven to replenish it. Meng Qingwu quickly asked, "Just tell us what materials we need. It doesn't matter how much it costs." Vice President, this is not a matter of money. It's just that with the resources of Southern Xia, I'm afraid that we won't be able to find a medicine of this level. Not even in the whole of Southern Xia. The few old men looked at each other and sighed. This kind of heaven-mending medicine must be of immortal grade. The women's faces instantly turned pale. Immortal medicine? Where in Southern Xia could they find immortal herbs? Southern Xia was a small country. The spiritual energy in the land was relatively poor and there weren't many sacred medicines growing there. Most of the sacred medicines were imported from abroad or dug out from ancient ruins. How could they find immortal herbs? They could only go to large countries or even empires to buy them, but immortal herbs were very expensive. Miracle Commerce's reserve of several billion gold coins sounded like a lot in Southern Xia, but what did it count for in that kind of place? Immortal herbs were often priceless. Even if Miracle Commerce had enough money, they still wouldn't be able to buy them. Chu Tian's condition could not be dragged on. Once it was dragged on, the side effects would be permanent. At that time, even if they obtained immortal herbs, they would not be able to save him. Meng Yingying said with some difficulty, "Elder sister, what do we do?" "Don't be afraid. No matter what price we have to pay, we will definitely save Chu Tian." Meng Qingwu tightly clenched her fists. Actually, no one knew that the one feeling the most guilty right now was her. The reason why Chu Tian was injured like this was mostly because of her, so she had to save him no matter what. Southern Xia doesn't have any medicine, so we'll look elsewhere. I believe we'll definitely find it. Meng Qingwu asked the old men, "Then when will Chu Tian wake up?" "That's hard to say." Zhao Pu stroked his beard. Not only is the chairman's body injured, his mind is also exhausted. I'm afraid he'll need to sleep for 2-3 days, so I suggest the chairman rest well. This way, he can recover from the damage to his mind. They could only do this. Vice Chairman. At this time, a Miracle Commerce employee ran in a panic. The Burning Sun ruler, the Refined ruler, and the Great Scholar are here. They want to see the chairman. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler are here? Yingying, take care of Chu Tian, I'll go take a look. Meng Qingwu came out with several people. The Burning Sun ruler was wearing a thick scarlet armor and the Refined ruler was wearing a golden silk armor. There were several important people behind them, including the great scholar Gu Qianxiu. The Refined ruler opened his mouth and asked, "Where is Chu Tian? Have him come out." "What do you mean?" Meng Qingwu was a bit afraid of the Refined ruler. The Shangguan family did not have a good relationship with Miracle Commerce, so it was hard to say what the Shangguan family would do in this special time. The matter on the front lines was an accident. As for the Southern Summer King's death, even Chu Tian can't do anything about it. Do you want to go to his door to punish him? It's a misunderstanding. Refined ruler, can you put away that stinky face of yours? The Burning Sun ruler glared at the Refined ruler and then said to Meng Qingwu, "Now that the country is in trouble, how could Southern Xia destroy its own walls? We already know what happened and Chu Tian did his best. No matter who is to blame for the matter on the front lines, it can't be blamed on Chu Tian. Not to mention that Chu Tian has already been bestowed the title of country guarding ruler by our king. His ruler rank is above us too." "Then you are Vice Chairman. Southern Xia has already reached a life and death juncture." Gu Qianxiu also came out to speak at this time. After thinking about it, perhaps only Chu Tian has the means to turn the tide. So, we want to see him and ask for a way to save the country. So it's like this. Meng Qingwu's heart sank. The Refined ruler and the Burning Sun ruler had lowered their statuses to find Chu Tian, clearly seeing him as their last hope. This meant that the situation was already very bad. When Chu Tian was coming back, he fought with a Warhound's true spirit expert and is currently in a coma. I'm afraid he won't wake up for now. Damn. The Burning Sun ruler angrily said, "How could it be like this?" Gu Qianxiu's expression also changed. "The Warhound's army is already showing signs of moving. What should we do?" Meng Qingwu was shocked. "What? They're coming this quickly? The frontline battle is very fierce. Don't they need to adjust?" The Refined ruler said with a dark expression. After the Warhounds' army reached the southern summer border, not only did their strength not weaken, they even added large amounts of siege troops from the Warhounds' plains. They will reach Imperial City in 3 days, and Imperial City's defenses cannot stop the Fong King's personally led army. What should they do? The various marquises are quickly returning to Imperial City, but there is no time to move the troops north. The Burning Sun ruler tightly clenched his fist. There's no other way. Even if we have to risk our lives, we can only fight them once. The chances of winning this battle were very slim. Southern Xia had 400,000 soldiers, 2 true spirit experts, the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler, and adding in the marquises from various regions, their battle strength was guaranteed. But in a normal clash of strength, Southern Xia would lose without a doubt, so they came to ask Chu Tian for help. They hoped that Chu Tian could find 1 or 2 strange moves for Southern Xia. Meng Qingwu never thought it would be this coincidental. Chu Tian would not wake up for a while, so who else had the ability to save Southern Xia other than him? If the country fell, not only would miracle commerce lose its footing, if they lost miracle commerce, what would they use to exchange for the immortal medicine? The Warhounds' attack would arrive in an instant, so they couldn't escape this calamity. But how should they deal with it? If it was Chu Tian, what would he do? Chu Tian could always think of a way to turn the tide. There was nothing that could stump him. The reason why they were in such a sorry state at the frontline fortress was because Chu Tian did not know anything and lacked information. Otherwise, with Chu Tian's style and ability, even the powerful Warhound's kingdom would not have made him suffer such a large loss. Meng Qingwu felt a wave of powerlessness. She did not have Chu Tian. He was at most an outstanding merchant. He could not do anything big at all. Wait a minute. I got it. Imperial City did not have a chance of winning. The calm martial ruler had secretly built a weapon factory outside the city. There were at least 10,000 source energy weapons. If these source energy weapons were taken out to equip the soldiers, it would increase the defensive power of the army by a large amount. Meng Qingwu immediately told this idea to the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler. The 2 of them were very shocked. Imperial City actually stored this many source energy weapons? Even the 2 of them did not know about this matter. The Southern Summer King had truly hidden it too well. Gu Qianxiu also said, if there were enough source energy weapons, this battle might not be impossible. Only the Imperial City's source energy factory has only been built for a short period of time, so at most there are 10,000 source energy weapons. Although they can be used in battle, it will be hard to turn the tide. Just the source energy weapons aren't enough. Do we need to prepare something else? What is it? Wait a minute. Meng Qingwu returned to her room and took out a communication device, immediately contacting the Central State Yun sect. Vice Chairman, is that you? Yun Tianhe's voice came from the communication device. I heard that something big has happened in the Imperial region. Shen Fengho quickly left Central State 2 nights ago. What is the situation over there? Time is pressing. It's not the time to talk about this. Meng Qingwu did not want to explain in detail. Has the Yun sect produced any results on the source energy bomb they have been researching? It's done, but it hasn't reached the chairman's requirements yet. Meng Qingwu felt a glimmer of hope. Use the image transferring mirror to send the relevant technology over. This technology is related to the fate of Imperial City. You have to be fast. Alright. Yun Tianhe understood Imperial City's current situation. I'll immediately send it over. Wait a minute, I haven't finished. What else do you have to say? Immediately contact the giant shark gang's boss Yu and have the fleet head north to Tsong State. If something happens to Imperial City, they can help us retreat to the south. Even if the worst happens and we can't escape Imperial City, they can at least help the calm martial ruler and protect the last elite army for the southern summer country. Yun Tianhe was very shocked. Could the situation in Imperial City have worsened to this degree? Meng Qingwu was not as impulsive as Chu Tian. She was very cautious in everything she did, so she had prepared an escape route ahead of time. If Imperial City couldn't be defended, Miracle Commerce's only chance of survival would be on the water route. The Warhounds lived on the prairies and were mainly ground cavalry. If they could retreat to the water route, it would not be easy for them to chase after them. That's right, there's one more thing. Meng Qingwu would not forget the most important thing. Activate all the Miracle Commerce radio stations and send out a purchase message to the entire country. What do you need? Yun Tianhe calmed himself. I ask Vice Chairman to tell me. We need a level 2 immortal herb, a level 2 immortal herb that can recover innate vitality. What? An immortal herb? How can this thing be bought in southern Xia? Even if there is a Miracle Commerce, what can we use to buy it? I know it is hard, but it is related to Chu Tian's life and death. Even if there is a trace of hope, we still have to try. Could it be that the chairman? Yun Tianhe's voice trembled a bit before he said in a hoarse voice, Relax, this old man will do his best. In the face of Miracle Commerce's life and death, I'll leave everything to you. Meng Qingwu gave a long sigh after ending the call. She could only do this much right now. As for the final result, it was not something Meng Qingwu could predict. Chapter 332. Meng Qingwu gave the source energy bomb blueprints from Central State to Gu Qianqiu. With this kind of strong destructive weapon, perhaps it could deal a heavy blow to the warhounds and turn the tide on the battlefield. For now, we can only do this. Use the source energy guns. Make source energy bombs. The source energy weapons were top secret, and the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler knew very little about them. Of course, it was impossible for them to completely hide it with their statuses. At least the two of them had investigated Chu Tian and knew that Chu Tian had a weapon factory in Central State, but they didn't know the specifics of the source energy weapons. Now that the Southern Summer King was dead and the calm martial ruler couldn't come back, Southern Xia was in danger of being destroyed. All the resources and strength they had to be used at this time. So with Gu Qianqiu's strong support, the two rulers decided to bypass the king's ban and forcefully open the source energy weapon factory. Meng Qingwu personally checked the source energy weapon factory's inventory. There were around 14,000 source energy pistols, 2,000 source energy submachine guns, 50,000 magazines for the pistols, and 10,000 magazines for the source energy submachine guns. The energy magazines were all shipped from Central State and were not made in the Imperial region, so there weren't many of them. It was already too late to ship them. These magazines should be able to last for a while. The source energy pistols could kill early awakened soul cultivators or low-level 2 demon beasts, but they were slow and their range couldn't compare to long-range weapons like bows and arrows, so they could only be used in close combat. The refined ruler suggested, there aren't many source energy weapons, so it's impossible to fully equip them. We can only use them to counter them. From the information from the front lines, the Warhound's trump card army is a wolf cavalry army. The demonic wolves are very agile and have very fast reactions, so it is hard to injure them with a rain of arrows. This source energy weapon is suitable to counter them in close combat. The Burning Sun ruler suggested, the Nangong family's Wild Flame Army is one of the best heavy armored infantry in southern Xia. They are stronger than the southern state barbarians and can block the charge of the demonic wolf cavalry. If they are equipped with source energy pistols, they can form a strong resistance. That makes sense. The two rulers decided to equip the 10,000 source energy pistols with the Wild Flame heavy infantry and an additional 500 submachine guns to increase their firepower. This infantry group was personally commanded by the Burning Sun ruler, so they had strong close combat abilities. Now that they had these weapons, naturally their strength would increase by a large amount. Gu Qianqiu suggested, there are still 2,000 source energy submachine guns left. This old man recommends equipping them to the Royal Griffin Knights. The Griffin Knights are the strongest army in Imperial City and even in southern Xia. They have the advantage of air suppression, and if they have the support of strong submachine guns, they will become a nightmare for the warhounds. The Griffin Knights had exactly 2,000 men left. This army was already extremely powerful, and now that they had the suppressive firepower, their strength had increased by at least several times. It was enough to suppress the enemy from the air at critical moments. No wonder our king is so confident that he's ready to start the northern expedition. The Burning Sun ruler was filled with excitement. My southern Xia has this kind of powerful weapon. We indeed have the ability to flatten the Warhound plains. What a pity! They never thought that the warhounds would be a step faster. In the end, he died before he could fulfill his ambition. Could it really be the will of the heavens? If the warhounds attacked a month later, the first batch of source energy weapons would have been sent to the army. When the Southern Xia army had over 100,000 source energy weapons, how could it be easy for the warhounds to break through the front lines? There were no assumptions in this world. Meng Qingwu was still not optimistic. She had seen the battle strength of the warhounds' army, and these 10,000 source energy weapons could increase Southern Xia's battle strength, but the increase was limited. It was impossible for them to resist the several 100,000 warhounds' army. Just relying on the source energy weapons was far from enough. Meng Qingwu ordered all the source energy batteries stored in Imperial City to be taken out for emergency modification. Gu Qianqiu gathered several thousand scholars to participate in the production. All kinds of source energy batteries were transformed into simple source energy bombs, allowing everyone to mass-produce source energy bombs. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler also quickly deployed their troops, preparing talismans, medicine, arrows, and war equipment. The several million people in Imperial City were mobilized. When the nest is overturned, there are no intact eggs. No matter what conflicts the families had, they were all united to fight against the enemy at this moment. Large amounts of source energy bombs were made before long. These bombs are very unstable, so we have to be very careful when using them. Otherwise, we might injure ourselves and it might lead to unimaginable dangers. Meng Qingwu directed the scholars to deploy the bombs. Our bombs are very limited, so we have to make sure we can use them on the battlefield. It's best if we can catch them off guard and deal them a heavy blow. When Meng Qingwu was busy deploying, a piece of good news came. Other than Song State's Green Cloud Marquis, the other 7 southern summer marquises had gathered in Imperial City, including Shin Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Four Direction Marquis, and the others. These marquises had come in a hurry, only bringing their personal guards. There were only around 3,000 people, but these 3,000 people were very strong. After Meng Qingwu learned of the situation, she immediately went to the royal palace to see them. When the Western Marquis saw Meng Qingwu appear, his face turned dark and filled with shame. He would never forget the humiliation Miracle Commerce had given him in his life. Although he did not see Chu Tian, seeing Meng Qingwu was enough to make his teeth itch. Meng Qingwu was most worried about internal problems in Imperial City. Why did the front lines collapse? A large part of the reason was Wang Tianlong's betrayal, so Dong Fangzhan had to personally suppress it. Because the frontline marshal had left the command post, he could not respond to the situation at the back, speeding up the collapse of the front lines. Qingwu greets the Western Marquis. Meng Qingwu also nodded. Chu Tian has offended the Western Marquis, so after this matter is over, Qingwu will personally apologize. But with the enemy in front of us, I ask the Western Marquis to cooperate. Shangguan Hong, you are still the Southern Summer King's second-class military marquis. The Refined ruler reprimanded him with a look of dissatisfaction. With the country in danger, personal grudges are not worth mentioning. This ruler does not want the Shangguan family to bear the crime of destroying the country. The Burning Sun ruler also said, Chu Tian has already become the country-guarding ruler and is the leader of the rulers, so it is not shameful for you to suffer this loss. Now that the warhounds are in front of us, we must cooperate. When the Western Marquis saw the 2 rulers come out to speak, how could he dare act out? He immediately cupped his hands and said, Shangguan Hong will face the danger with my own body, even if I die 10,000 times. Meng Qingwu was relieved seeing this. She looked at Shin Fengho and the Golden Arrow Marquis. You guys came this quickly? Shin Fengho nodded. My king sent out a royal proclamation not long ago, requesting the southern states to make their preparations as well as a plan to move troops from the south to the north. We were already prepared to come to Imperial City at any time, so when we learned of the changes in the Imperial region, we immediately rushed over. It's a pity, the Golden Arrow Marquis said with a sigh. We rushed over, but we couldn't bring the army with us. There was no way around it. Although the armies of the various states had not arrived yet, the marquises were all peak experts of southern Xia and were all experienced generals, so they could handle this task by themselves. With the help of these people in Imperial City, their chances of winning this battle would increase by quite a bit. Shen Fengho's voice was a bit hoarse. I heard that the old marshal? Meng Qingwu gave a heavy nod. At this time, the marquises all had silent expressions. Whether it was Shen Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Western Marquis, or the other marquises, as long as they were in front of Dong Fangzhan, they would all respectfully call him the marshal. This was because they had more or less worked under Dong Fangzhan before, so they all admired Dong Fangzhan's character. The pillar of the country had collapsed. How could they not sigh? What is the current situation? The Greenwood Marquis said. How should we fight? Meng Qingwu had already done her best. The source energy guns and the source energy bombs, these two things could greatly increase the chances of Imperial City's defense. However, the final result of Imperial City was not something that Meng Qingwu could predict. She could only leave it to fate. Meng Qingwu was a merchant, so she had no experience in analyzing the battlefield. She only knew that the Warhound's army was very strong, so how they would defend would depend on these people. The Calm Martial ruler was not here and the Burning Sun ruler had the highest rank in the army, so he was in charge of the defense. From now on, the entire city will be under military control and all food will be distributed. The citizens of the city will not be allowed to leave and the mercenaries will be used to fight. The Greenwood Marquis, Shen Fengho, you will be in charge of the southern defenses. The Golden Arrow Marquis, Western Peace Marquis, you will be in charge of the eastern defenses. The Western Marquis, Far East Marquis, I will leave the western defenses to you. The Refined Ruler and I will be in charge of the northern defenses. The military deployment will be as follows. The southern Summer Imperial City was anxiously deploying and the Warhounds were quickly reorganizing, increasing the pace of their advance. This was because the Fang King was very clear that his time was limited. The Calm Martial rulers 200,000 cavalry and the Green Cloud Marquis 200,000 cavalry, once they left the Tsang State Plains, these 400,000 highly mobile troops would return to the Imperial region and the Warhounds would fall into a difficult situation. This was a battle of speed. The Fang King had to rush back before the Calm Martial ruler returned and take down Imperial City. Once they took down Imperial City, Southern Summer would not have the strength to reverse the situation. Finally, the Warhounds' army appeared to the north of Imperial City. The vast Warhounds' army far surpassed their imagination and the Imperial City garrison couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. The flags were like waves in the sea and there were at least 700,000-800,000 of them. It was no different from when they attacked the front lines. This was strange. It was impossible for an army to increase in numbers as they fought. Although the Warhounds had a large victory in breaking through the front lines, they had lost at least 200,000 people. Why were there still so many soldiers in their field of vision? The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler found the problem because they recognized many old enemies among the Warhounds' army's flags. From the information they had received, these old Warhounds tribes did not participate in the battle. It was clear that the Warhounds had not completely submitted to the Fang King. There were some old Warhounds tribes that did not participate in the battle. This was most likely a bet between the Fang King and them. As long as they broke through the front lines of southern Xia, these old tribes would submit. If the Fang King was defeated, these old tribes would leave the Fang King and in the end, the Fang King would be the only one left. These old tribes had seen the Fang King's strength, so they had no choice but to accept it. The Fang King's army had gained a very precious air force. From the scale, there were around 20,000 people and they were all riding on vultures. This was a large vulture cavalry and it was clear they were here to fight against the Griffin Knights in Imperial City. This was too hard to believe. An air force of vultures and a demon wolf cavalry. The mounts, soldiers, and equipment of these two armies were all the same. This was clearly something that could only be created with a strong breeding and manufacturing power. The Warhounds' breeding ability was not bad, but they couldn't create this many high-quality mounts. Moreover, the Warhounds' equipment manufacturing skills were very simple, so how could they create this kind of army? The Fang King rode a three-headed demon wolf, walking alone in the direction of Imperial City. This is the new Fong King? The Burning Sun ruler felt a pressure coming from the Fong King. This person's cultivation was higher than his by quite a bit, even the calm martial ruler could not compare, so it's a nameless person. Behind the Fong King was a group of Warhound's kingdom experts, including 3-4 true spirit experts who were all old tribe chiefs. Other than that, there was also the Southern Summer rebel Wang Tianlong. The Fong King had sent out his full strength in this battle, preparing to capture Southern Summer's imperial city in a single battle. The difference in strength between the two sides was too large and the fall of Southern Summer was imminent, but the Fong King was not excited at all. Rather, he said with a dark expression, "Malim was killed by the two of you?" Who was Malim? The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler were stunned. "It was me who killed him." A sweet girl's voice sounded from the city walls. Meng Qingwu was not wearing her usual white robe, rather she was wearing a silver armor. She was fully armed like a valiant general. Gu Qianqiu was shocked. Chairman Meng actually killed that person? The Burning Sun ruler asked in a strange voice. What? Could it be that person's background is very big? Of course. Gu Qianqiu angrily said, Malim is the Hellsong tribe's vice tribe chief and a true spirit cultivator who worked with the rebel Wang Tianlong to kill my king. True spirit cultivator? Everyone was shocked. A weak girl like Meng Qingwu actually personally killed a warhound's true spirit cultivator? This news was too shocking. Just the merit from this head was enough for Meng Qingwu to become a marquis. After all, in all these years, Southern Xia had never killed a warhound's true spirit expert before. Even if a warhound's true spirit expert fell, it would be because of internal strife. The entire warhound's army was thrown into an uproar. Malim actually died in the hands of a weak girl? The Fong King's face was extremely dark and his eyes seemed like they were about to spit fire. Chapter 333. The Nether Flame Blade Malim, the Hellsong tribe's vice chief, had actually died to a weak awakened soul realm girl? This news was just too explosive. The various warhounds tribes were all discussing this. You are insulting my tribe's warriors. The Fong King angrily roared, How could you kill him? Don't you recognize this storage bag? Meng Qingwu did not waste words as she took out a storage bag from the Fong King. Then she took out a long black blade from the storage bag. The long blade was tied up in strips of cloth. Because this saber was a top-grade soul-contracting weapon, Meng Qingwu had no way of gaining its approval, so she had no way of using it. Even if you don't recognize the storage bag, I think you're not unfamiliar with this saber. Nether Flame Blade. Malim really died to her hands. Several Warhounds Plains chiefs were whispering to each other as they all had strange expressions on their faces. No one sympathized with Malim's death, rather most of them revealed looks of disdain. The Fong King was unable to restrain his anger. Malim was his little brother and was the Fong King's most trusted and capable subordinate. If Malim was killed by a strong enemy, it would be a fitting ending for a brave warrior. But Malim had actually died to this weak little girl's hands. This was not just an insult to Malim, it was also an insult to their Hellsong tribe. The purple gold thunder god's drum was suddenly raised. Lightning! The Fong King roared out as he released a bolt of lightning that exploded in the sky. It pierced through the clouds and charged at Meng Qingwu on the city wall. She could still release such a strong attack from this far away? The Fong King's strength was truly terrifying. This shocked the Southern Xia soldiers. The refined ruler gave a cold laugh and the golden pen fell out of his sleeve. He drew a circle in the air and the lightning was instantly locked in. With a wave of the golden pen, the energy was sent back, shooting at the Fong King like a beam of light. The Fong King used the golden drum to block it and it was all sucked in. The Fong King softly asked, You are the Southern Summer refined ruler? It is this ruler. The many years of chaos in the Warhounds were all secretly stirred up by you. The reason why Southern Xia can live until today is because of you. It's a pity that I haven't been able to grasp their recent movements. Otherwise, how could I have fallen to such a state? This ruler is clear on the situation of the Warhounds Plains. It is impossible for them to launch this kind of attack. You are not a nameless person, So where did you come from? The Burning Sun ruler coldly said, "Why are you wasting words with him? Since these warhounds beasts have come, then we'll let them experience the power of Southern Xia's arrows." Burning Sun ruler, refined ruler, I suggest you surrender. Before the Fang King could say anything, Wang Tianlong slowly walked out. Could it be that you still naively think that Southern Xia is only facing the Warhound's kingdom? He was gravely mistaken. You don't know what happened at all, you can't win this battle. The Southern Xia people were already suspicious of the Fang King's origin. This was because the Hellsong tribe was a new tribe that had appeared in the Warhound's plains in the last 10 years, so they were fundamentally different from the other Warhounds tribes. A tribe that was established in such a short period of time, it was impossible for them to establish a mature and complete army. 100,000 demon wolf cavalry and 20,000 vulture cavalry, where did they come from? There was only one possibility. The Hellsong tribe was just a representative, representing a foreign power. That was why Wang Tianlong was so confident. The Hellsong tribe is a noble of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. Wang Tianlong loudly shouted, "The Warhounds' kingdom has already become one of the Eagle Burial warring kingdoms, and the Warhounds are now under the Eagle Burial Kingdom's influence. Do you think you have the ability to fight against a warring kingdom?" Everyone's expressions changed. Eagle Burial Kingdom? Although this country did not have any contact with the Southern Summer Country, some people had heard of it before. This was also a kingdom, but it had already developed to the level of a warring kingdom. It had to be known that for a kingdom to become a warring kingdom, it first had to have a stable and rich national power. It also had to have a military strength that surpassed the surrounding areas, showing a tendency to expand to become a warring kingdom. A warring kingdom was also a kingdom, and its strength far surpassed a normal kingdom, even surpassing a normal large kingdom. In the future, it had the potential to become an empire. Didn't the Tianma cult create a heavenly demon warring kingdom in the past? Everyone was clear on how strong the Tianma cult was at its peak. Each branch of the 10 great inheritances had at least several true spirit realm experts. The small Southern Summer Country's national power compared to a warring kingdom did not have any chance of winning. The Warhound's kingdom had already become a warring kingdom. This generation's Fang King was not born on the Warhound's plains, rather he was a king from the Spirit Beast Warring Kingdom, not an independent king. It was no wonder the Fang King could lead such a strong army. With the situation on the Warhound's plains, this army couldn't be established even after several decades. This was clearly an army provided by the Spirit Beast Warring Kingdom behind the Warhound's kingdom. It was because of this that the Fang King could sweep through everything, causing the front lines of Southern Xia to collapse in a single night. Now you understand, you have no chance of winning at all. Wang Tianlong said with a cold smile, "Not to mention you can't win today, so what if you're lucky enough not to be destroyed? In just a few days, the warring kingdom will send several times the number of soldiers. What use is there in defending? How long can you defend? You traitor! Shut up! A wise man submits to circumstances. The Fang King has ruled the plains and has now become the Fang King." Wang Tianlong was not moved at all. The destruction of the Southern Summer Country is a fact. Only surrendering to the Warhounds can save the 200 million citizens of the Southern Summer Country from the flames of war. Southern Xia will still be Southern Xia. It will just be a subsidiary of the Warhounds Kingdom and a small piece of the Eagle Burial Kingdom's territory. Humans can still live their own lives and receive the protection of a strong warring kingdom, so why not? Don't be stubborn, there is no other way other than surrendering. Let Southern Xia become the Spirit Beast slaves? Let Southern Summer pay tribute to the Warhounds? Impossible. Don't tell me you want Southern Xia to fall into death and destruction. Wang Tianlong loudly shouted, "The lives of the millions of innocent citizens in Imperial City are in your hands. If you dare resist the Warhounds' cavalry today, the city will be slaughtered on the day the city is broken. You better think this through." The defenders were a bit shaken. The strength of a warring kingdom was too terrifying. The small Southern Summer Country couldn't even fight the Warhounds. Even if the Warhounds agreed, they would only be a large kingdom and a very unstable kingdom. How could they compare to a warring kingdom? Now that the Warhounds' planes had the help of the Eagle Burial Kingdom, the Warhounds' kingdom had been re-established. With the warring kingdom suppressing them, the Warhounds would have fewer internal conflicts. The Warhounds' kingdom had become a vassal state of the Eagle Burial Kingdom, so what qualifications did Southern Xia have to refuse becoming a subsidiary country? The countries of the continent were divided into 3 types. The first was an independent country. This was a country with complete sovereignty, diplomatic rights, and exclusive resources. It was not controlled by any outside powers and did not need to pay tribute. The second was a vassal state. A vassal state was not a kingdom, it could be a marquis state or a sovereign state. This was a country with a noble title that was sent to various places, allowing them to have their own territory. The current Fang king was clearly a king of the Eagle Burial Kingdom, so he was given the title of King of the Warhounds Kingdom. Although the Marquis had a high degree of autonomy in their territory, the highest commander of the Warhounds army was still the king. Every year they mined the resources from the treasury, they had to pay a certain amount of taxes to the main country. The third was a subsidiary country. Subsidiary countries were different from the first 2. Subsidiary countries were countries that were defeated or faced with a stronger country, so they surrendered. These subsidiary countries did not have any dignity and almost no sovereignty. Not only did they have to pay tribute, they also had to pay tribute and they could not have their own army. Subsidiary countries existed to work hard, growing food, cultivating resources, raising demon beasts, and etc. They were not allowed to keep the treasury and had to take it all out to pay tribute. Once Southern Xia became a subsidiary country of the Warhounds Kingdom, their people and resources would not belong to them. But if they resisted with Southern Xia's national strength, how could they block the invasion of a large warring kingdom? Scram. A person like you who sells out your ancestors for glory, what qualifications do you have to shout here? Then I want to see how long you can remain arrogant in front of the Warhounds Kingdom's overwhelming strength. Wang Tianlong did not plan on keeping them here. Although the Fang king promised to make him the new Southern Summer King, the 3 great clans did not have any meaning in existing. Otherwise, with Wang Tianlong's current strength, how could he suppress these fellows? He had to kill them all. Wang Tianlong was very clear on the Burning Sun ruler's temper. Since they wouldn't give up until they saw the coffin, they could not convince them to surrender, so he would use strength to speak. The Fang king did not want to waste time. This was because the calm martial ruler did not give the Fang king much time. At this time, a deep bugle was blown. The Warhounds' army was preparing to attack. The vanguard was made up of giant beasts, leading around 50,000 Warhounds elites. Most of them were carrying tools to climb the walls, so this was the first wave of Warhounds to attack. Those giant beasts that looked like gorillas were over 10 meters tall, and each one was covered in incomparably thick armor. The threat that Southern Xia's archers posed to them was very limited, and even the arrows of true Soul Realm experts would find it hard to heavily injure them. The war drums became more and more intense. The speed at which this army charged out was becoming faster and faster. The Burning Sun ruler knit his brows. Will it really work? Relax. Meng Qingwu tightly clenched her fist. Just wait and see. A giant beast suddenly stepped on something and a large amount of energy was released from its foot. It released a large amount of light and heat in a short period of time. That wild energy was released like a tsunami, instantly blowing up the giant beast's leg. That giant shockwave sent several hundred Warhound soldiers flying, and quite a few of them were sent flying. The Warhound's vanguard formation fell into chaos. There were several large explosions. Several more source energy bombs buried underground were detonated. Without any warning, these giant monsters suddenly suffered a violent explosion. Basically, they were all blown to pieces. The power of this explosion was so strong that every time it was released, a black bowl-shaped pit would appear on the ground. Perhaps even a true Soul Realm expert would be heavily injured or even killed by this explosion. Fire! Meng Qingwu gave an order. Several catapults on the wall were launched and several tightly wrapped bombs flew out from the wall, falling in a parabola in the center of the Warhound's army. Another shining mushroom cloud appeared. Several hundred warhound soldiers were in the range of the bombs and were immediately killed by this violent explosion. The warhounds' first wave did not even have time to fight before they suffered a heavy setback. Their originally low morale was restored by quite a bit. No matter what happened in the future, they would at least win this battle first. After all, the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler were not fools. If the situation reached a point where they could not resist, then they would naturally retreat. Ring the bow. Southern Xia's bombs were too strong, causing large losses to the warhounds. This made the warhounds experts very unhappy. When Southern Xia threw another source energy bomb, a warhounds expert pulled his bow and shot an arrow at the bomb. This bomb exploded in the air. There were quite a few Southern Summer soldiers on the wall that were injured. When the source energy bombs were shattered, the fragments fell in different places like fireworks. Each fragment exploded, causing a certain amount of damage to the warhounds tribe. What was this thing? The warhounds were very shocked. Mind's eye. Wang Tianlong used his divine sense to observe the ground in front of him and was surprised to find that there were many high-energy objects buried in the ground in front of Imperial City. It was these things that had blown up the warhounds' giant beasts. Humph! The Fang King had clearly noticed this as he coldly raised the golden drum. Shoot the arrows in front of you. The warhounds' archers immediately pulled their bows and a large wave of arrows fell down. Those source energy bombs that did not explode in time were mostly detonated by the rain of arrows. Like this, the buried mines had lost their effect. It was a pity that there was too little time and Miracle Commerce did not have time to make enough source energy bombs. The warhounds' army did not care about death as they charged forward. They were about to reach the wall and the following battle would be very difficult. Perhaps they would have to fight a hard battle. Chapter 334. The war drums were like thunder, shaking the earth. The warhounds' army charged forward like a black mass, finally beginning their attack. When they entered the range of Southern Xia's archers, a terrifying whistling sound came from the sky. It was like a dark cloud was covering them, instantly blocking the sunlight as countless arrows fell down. Ice, flames, and explosions, these talisman arrows had shocking might, instantly causing the warhounds' army to suffer heavy losses. Release the arrows. Counter it. A warhounds chief personally led the charge. Let them see the might of the warhounds' kingdom. The warhounds' army charged forward with a strange roar, shooting arrows into the sky. Countless arrows fell onto the city walls, attempting to use the rain of arrows to suppress the resistance of the Southern Summer defenders. The refined ruler coldly ordered, "Activate the talisman array." The Shengguan family stood in a circle, each person holding a large flag covered in talismans. They slammed it into the city walls and the energy from the talismans began to interweave, forming a protective barrier around the city walls. The warhounds' arrows were all bounced off the protective barrier. The warhounds attempted to climb the city walls, but Southern Xia had already placed large amounts of talisman traps on the city walls. As long as the warhounds touched the traps, they would immediately trigger flames, frost, or explosions. How could it be easy for the warhounds' army to climb the city walls? The Southern Summer defenders just had to hold their ground. It was victory as long as the city was not broken. The calm martial ruler had escaped from Song State and killed his way back, which would instantly change the situation. The Fang King knew this, so he did not hesitate to go crazy. The Fang King coldly stared at the intense battlefield. Move out with the vulture cavalry. Large amounts of black dots appeared in the clouds at this time. Countless warhound soldiers riding vultures passed through the defensive line and appeared in the sky above Imperial City. After all, Royal City was not a fortress. The frontline fortresses were almost completely enclosed fortresses, but it was impossible for Royal City to be enclosed. Therefore, the aerial troops could completely bypass the defensive line and land in the center of the city to launch an attack, breaking through Royal City's defenses from the inside. Large amounts of warhound soldiers fell down from the sky like dumplings. The warhounds' vulture cavalry had transported at least 30,000–40,000 warhounds elites into Imperial City. If these 30,000–40,000 elites and 20,000 vulture cavalry attacked from the inside, It would be a large disturbance and trouble for Southern Xia. Wild Flame Legion, block the enemy's airborne ground troops. The Burning Sun ruler immediately ordered the Nangong family's Wild Flame Heavy Armor Corps to move out and form a solid defense for Imperial City. Griffin Knights, go forward and tie down these air forces. The 2,000 Griffins had been waiting for a long time. When they received the Burning Sun ruler's order, they immediately flew into the air and attacked the Vulture cavalry that was 10 times the number in Imperial City. Although the Griffin Knights didn't have the advantage in numbers, their imposing manner wasn't inferior at all. The Griffins themselves were powerful level 2 magical beasts, and every single Royal Knight was a top-notch elite of Southern Xia. Even if the enemy outnumbered them 10 to 1, they would still have the ability to fight. Is this the strongest legion of Southern Xia? The commander of the Vulture cavalry sneered, "What a ridiculous bunch of fools." The Griffin Knights were the peak force protecting Southern Xia and Imperial City. In order to create the Griffin Knights, Southern Xia bought griffins from foreign sources at a high price each year and invested large amounts of resources into training the Griffin Knights. The Griffin Knights represented Southern Xia's authority in a certain sense. If they could defeat this army, it would be a destructive blow to Southern Xia's morale. Since they're seeking death, we'll let them see how strong our Eagle Burial Kingdom's air force is. The Vulture cavalry commander loudly ordered, "Kill!" The Griffin Knight commander faced the dense amount of Vulture cavalry and immediately raised his spear high up as he shouted, "Prepare for battle." The two airborne armies quickly moved, and when they were about to collide, the Griffin Knight commander loudly shouted, "Wind Blade Array." 2,000 Griffins simultaneously gathered their strength and released a wave of azure wind blades. The Griffins were much stronger than the Vultures, so this storm-like wind blade attack was very powerful. If they directly hit the Vultures, they would definitely not be able to withstand it. In an instant, a large number of them would be wiped out. But how could it be this easy? The Vulture cavalry was a regular army of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. Not only were they well trained, they also had rich battle experience. When the Griffins gathered their strength, the Vulture cavalry were already prepared and dodged at the same time. The blue wind blades passed through them, but not many of them hit their targets. Looking from the ground, the orderly Vulture cavalry suddenly exploded. All the Vulture cavalry moved in different directions, instantly forming a semicircle that seemed like it was trying to swallow the Griffin Knights. "Kill them!" The Vulture cavalry completely surrounded the Griffin Knights, sealing off the space around them. After all, the Vulture cavalry had the advantage in numbers. If they used a blockade strategy, the Griffin cavalry's movements would be hindered. Although the Royal Knights were very strong and the Griffin mounts were very fierce, the Warhound's Vulture cavalry weren't bad either. Once they were surrounded by the Vulture cavalry, it would be hard for them to escape in a short period of time. The Griffin Knight commander's face fell. "Break through." How could it be that easy? Release the arrows. The Griffin Knights each had a spear. Most of the time, they relied on their Griffins to charge through enemy lines. Griffins could shoot powerful wind blades, which could make up for their lack of ranged attacks. Thus, the Griffin Knights didn't use ranged weapons. The Vulture cavalry's situation was different. The Vulture beasts had thick skin and flesh, and their speed when carrying heavy loads was outstanding. However, they didn't have the ability to attack from a distance. Because of this, during the selection process of the Vulture cavalry, the priority was to be a sharpshooter. There were even some strong Vulture beasts that were paired with 2 cavalrymen, one in charge of close combat and the other in charge of long-range attacks. The Griffin Knights had just entered close combat with the first row of Vulture cavalry when the second and third row of Vultures released a large wave of arrows. The front lines were pinned down by the melee attackers, while the back lines were shot from the shadows. With such a combination of ranged attacks and melee attacks, the Griffin cavalry couldn't hold on for long even with the Griffin's wind elemental defensive barrier. Almost immediately, the Griffin cavalry fell into a disadvantageous position. They tried to break out of the encirclement several times but failed. It really wasn't good. Southern Xia was a small country in the end, so they lacked experience in aerial battles. Even the elite Griffin Knights did not have much experience in aerial battles, so when they fought against a trained aerial force, even if they had an advantage in individual strength, they would still be suppressed. The Warhound's black tide of attacks became even fiercer. Whether it was the Imperial City or the Warhounds, the casualties were all increasing. Because the Vulture Cavalry had sent a group of airborne soldiers into southern Xia, the city walls were in chaos. There were quite a few Warhound soldiers that didn't fear death climbing up the walls. Throw the bombs. Quickly. The southern Xia defenders had no way of dealing with the wildly climbing Warhound soldiers, so they could only throw the last batch of source energy bombs down from the city walls. In an instant, the earth shook and large amounts of explosions appeared on the city walls. Each source energy bomb released a terrifying light and heat, causing the Imperial City to tremble under this terrifying might. Each explosion occurred where the Warhound soldiers were gathered, instantly tearing apart over 100 Warhound soldiers. The Warhound's army was shocked by the terrifying might of the source energy bombs. The might of these weapons was just too terrifying. Don't care about them, continue killing. Southern Xia's city walls are about to be broken. The Warhound's army was incomparably fierce. These powerful source energy bombs could barely suppress the Warhound's attack, but it didn't take long for the Warhounds to return, attacking the city walls like ants. In terms of defense, southern Xia's Imperial City could not compare to the frontline fortress. Because Imperial City was too big and there were too many people, there were 9 city gates. The Warhound's army attacked 7 of the city gates at the same time, so Miracle Commerce had a limited amount of source energy bombs. Now that they were almost used up, there was no way to stop the Warhounds from attacking the city. The Griffin Knights that southern Xia was proud of were currently being suppressed by the Vulture Cavalry, so they had no way to reinforce the defenses. Instead, more and more Warhound soldiers were creating chaos in Imperial City, wantonly setting fires and attacking, making the situation even more chaotic. Finally, there was a Warhound's army that successfully climbed up the city walls. The following troops continued to pour in like a tide, each one of them fighting without fear of death. The southern Xia army was much weaker in comparison. Meng Qingwu saw that many parts of the city walls were invaded by the Warhound's army, and she knew that Imperial City couldn't hold on much longer. She immediately said to the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler, "It's about time." The 2 rulers nodded. The Burning Sun ruler raised a flag high up and a horn sounded in southern Xia's Imperial City. The Fong King knit his brows when he saw this. Could it be that southern Xia still had a move they hadn't used? At this time, the Griffin Knights that were surrounded by the Vulture Cavalry suddenly began to counterattack. The 2,000 Griffin Knights charged forward with a lance in one hand and a source energy submachine gun in the other. This weapon is... Wang Tianlong was shocked when he saw the weapon the Griffin Knights were using. Wang Tianlong was not unfamiliar with this thing. He had seen it in Chu Tian's hands before. Only Wang Tianlong had always thought that it was a special secret treasure, but who would have thought that the Griffin Knights would all have one? Wang Tianlong had seen the might of this weapon before. If everyone had one, how terrifying would that be? The Griffin Knight commander loudly shouted, "Kill them all!" The Warhounds did not even have time to react before the source energy submachine gun spat out a dazzling white flame. Over 1,000 energy bullets flew out faster than arrows. The firing speed was too fast and the attack was too sudden. How could the Vulture Cavalry resist at such a close distance? In an instant, several hundred vultures fell from the sky, creating a gap in the Vulture Cavalry's encirclement. The Griffin Knights used a storm of bullets to create a gap in the Vulture Cavalry's formation, causing heavy casualties to the vultures. Then they charged down the city walls and the muzzles of their submachine guns swept across the Warhound's soldiers on the city walls. The sky was filled with dense light bullets. This was the effect of 2,000 source energy submachine guns firing at the same time. When the source energy bullets weren't fired, not only were they small, they were also faster than arrows. Shooting at such a close distance, these Warhound soldiers did not have time to dodge at all. They were instantly killed, greatly reducing the pressure on the city walls. This was the Nangong family's over 10,000 Wild Flame heavy armor army. Their left hands held pistols and their right hands held large swords, currently fighting the Warhound soldiers that dropped in. There was no suspense in the result as the Warhound soldiers were defeated in one battle. How could they block this terrifying army? The Nangong family's Wild Flame Heavy Armor Army already had strong close combat abilities, and now with the assistance of the pistols, they could easily pierce through an awakened soul cultivator's protective spirit energy. These Warhound soldiers that dropped in were elites, but how many of them were awakened soul cultivators? This was a completely one-sided situation. They had regained their air superiority, relieved the pressure on the city walls, and cleared out the enemies in the city. The southern summer Imperial City was becoming smoother and smoother, so the Warhounds would not be able to break through Imperial City. These humans really do have some methods. The Fong King's eyes seemed like they were spitting fire, but he was not flustered and exasperated. Rather, he calmly said, "How are the preparations on that side?" Wang Tianlong confidently said, "Please be assured, Fong King. Everything is prepared, these fellows won't be happy for long. Good. Inform the Demon Wolf Cavalry to prepare to attack." Chapter 335. The Warhound soldiers that had been dropped by the Vulture Knights were being pushed back by the Nangong family's Wild Flame Army. The Wild Flame Army was Southern Xia's strongest infantry army. Each one was covered in incomparably thick armor, and it was hard for early awakened Soul Realm experts to break through their defenses. Moreover, the Wild Flame Army was raised using the Nangong family's secret technique, so they were all tall and strong, almost not feeling any pain. Although they were in the peak 9th body refinement layer, their individual strength was close to an awakened soul cultivator. An entire 10,000 Wild Flame warriors held giant broadswords in their right hands and source energy pistols in their left. The Warhound soldiers tried to break through the encirclement several times but failed, finally being forced back together. Almost at the same time, the Griffin Knights supported the city walls, instantly eliminating the pressure on the Southern Summer Army, giving the Southern Summer Army enough time to regain their footing. Although Imperial City was in a mess because of the flames of battle, the most dangerous wave of attacks had been blocked at this moment. The Griffin Knights once again began fighting with the Vulture Knights. Each Griffin Knight had at least one energy magazine left. In front of the high-firing speed and firepower of the Source Energy submachine guns, the Vulture Knights could not form a proper battle formation. After a few rounds of attacks from the Griffin Knights, the Vulture Knights had suffered at least 3-4 times the casualties of the Griffin Knights. Ha 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 ha. The Burning Sun ruler punched a Warhound's general's body. His body was covered in blood and his red hair danced in the wind. He stared at the retreating Warhound soldiers and wildly laughed. "The Warhounds only amount to this much, daring to attack my southern summer country. I'll make sure you never return." The refined ruler had also killed several high-level generals. At this moment, the most dangerous wave of attacks from the Warhounds had been blocked. The Warhounds' Vulture Knights had suffered heavy casualties, and the elites that had been dropped into the city had been chased by the Wild Flame Army, with most of them having already died. The Warhounds had surrounded the city and suffered heavy casualties. If they chose to retreat now, it would not be easy to attack the city again. On one hand, after this battle, Southern Xia's confidence had increased, and on the other hand, the calm martial ruler was about to return. The Southern Summer Cavalry did not have much time left for the Warhounds. Miracle Commerce's source energy weapons had played a crucial role. It was because of the strong source energy weapons that the Griffin Knights could escape from their disadvantage, allowing the Wild Flame Army to easily defeat the Warhounds' elites. It was also because of the deterrence of the source energy weapons that the Warhounds' experts, including the Fong King, did not dare act rashly, greatly reducing the pressure on their defenses. The refined ruler took out the dark gold pen from the heart of a Warhounds general. When his eyes swept over the Warhounds army, he suddenly noticed a different situation. Where did their main cavalry go? With these words, the Burning Sun ruler was alerted. The most important part of the Warhounds army was the Demonic Wolf Cavalry. This was an army with a battle strength that made people's blood run cold. Only no matter how intense the battle was, the Fong King had always been calm and did not use this army to attack the city. Now that they looked over, they were surprised to find that the nightmarish Black Army had already disappeared. Southern Xia was cheering for their victory. The Burning Sun ruler stared at the Fang King. Although they were very far away, the Fang King's eyes did not contain any anger or frustration. Rather, there was a deep sense of cunning, as if he was waiting for something. This is bad. Could it be that he still had a backup plan? When the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler felt this was bad, there was a series of sounds of fighting that came from the center of Imperial City. There were also the faint roars of angry wolves mixed in. The Warhounds elites that had been suppressed by the Wild Flame Army suddenly began to wildly counterattack like they were on steroids. Before the Wild Flame Army could react, from the roofs and corners of the surroundings, there were even people that jumped over the walls. Like a flood, thousands of Black Wolf cavalry appeared. This is bad. It was too sudden and the Wild Flame Army did not have time to counterattack. Countless demonic wolf cavalry swarmed over, instantly cutting into the Wild Flame Army's formation. Moreover, their numbers kept increasing, surpassing the Wild Flame Army in an instant. It was like a group of wild dogs fighting over a delicious piece of meat, instantly throwing the Wild Flame Army into chaos. The Warhounds' cavalry had appeared in Imperial City. Everyone was shocked. What was going on? Why would the Warhounds' cavalry appear in the city? A person quickly ran over to report, "The enemy is coming from the direction of the Nangong family." This is impossible. The Burning Sun ruler could not help but believe this. A large group of incomparably fierce black figures were continuously charging out. The agile demonic wolf cavalry jumped over the roofs, killing the innocent civilians and soldiers on the streets. 5,000, 8,000, 10,000. 20,000, 30,000. The Burning Sun ruler's Wild Flame heavy armored army in the city were instantly submerged. The demonic wolf cavalry became larger and larger, appearing in an endless stream. What the hell is going on? The Burning Sun ruler angrily roared out, but he suddenly thought of something. Could it be that the family's secret passage has been? The entire southern Xia Imperial City was built by the three great clans, so during the construction of Imperial City, the three great clans would definitely build a secret passage outside the city for some reason. This was not a strange matter at all. But the security of the secret passage was very high. It could not be opened from the outside and could only be opened from the inside. There were not many people in the Nangong family that had the authority to open it, especially in this kind of wartime situation. Then why would the secret passage be opened for no reason? At this time, countless demonic wolf cavalry suddenly surrounded a small group of Nangong family soldiers. The one leading them was not anyone else. It was actually the Burning Sun ruler's son, the Departing Flame Marquis. The Departing Flame Marquis was accompanied by several thousand Departing Flame guards he had personally trained. Departing Flame Marquis. Why is the Departing Flame Marquis with the Warhounds people? Damn, could it be the Departing Flame Marquis who let the enemy in? If the Departing Flame Marquis opened the Nangong family's secret passage, everything would be logical. After all, the Departing Flame Marquis was the head of the 8 Marquises and the only first-class Marquis. He had the powerful Departing Flame soldiers and had the authority to open it. Even if the family opposed it, the Departing Flame Marquis could still open it with his strength. Ha! A true Spirit Realm Warhounds chief laughed beside the Departing Flame Marquis. You never thought that this would be your end. The Burning Sun ruler's face turned red and black. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Nangong Ling, you unfilial son. How dare you frame this old man for being unjust? How dare you frame the family for being unjust? Old fellow, you've gone senile. The Departing Flame Marquis, Nangong Ling coldly said, the southern summer Imperial City has around 7-8 million people and this bustling city will be destroyed by you fools. I'm only doing this to protect the citizens. The Fang King has already promised me that as long as I help him take down Imperial City, he will spare the citizens and make me the ruler of the southern summer country. As for you, why are you still stubbornly resisting? Betraying your country for glory, but you have to use such a grand excuse? The refined ruler was filled with rage. Imperial City was about to be defended, but who would have thought that this kind of turn would occur? You are the shame of the southern summer country. Nangong Ling did not care. No matter what you say, the Dongfang family southern Xia cannot be protected. The Nangong family and Shengguan family do not need to be buried with him. The true Spirit Realm Warhound's chief on the side was already impatient. Too much nonsense, attack. The Demon Wolf cavalry wildly charged at the city walls. Southern Xia's defenses were all external, so now that the enemy was attacking from the inside, how could they defend? The Fang King could feel the change in the city from outside the city. He gave a cold smile and raised the purple gold thunder god's drum in his hand. The time has come, follow me to attack the city. The Fang King personally made a move. Other than the Fang King, the Warhounds had at least 4 other true Spirit Realm experts. The number, scale, and battle strength of their army far surpassed that of Southern Xia. Now that they were attacking Imperial City from the inside, how could the Southern Summer Country defend it? 2 rulers of the Southern Summer Country, let me face you. The Fang King stomped on the ground and jumped several dozen meters off the city walls. Using the depression in the city walls, he jumped several dozen meters again and actually landed on top of the city walls. The city walls were already burning and the soldiers were resisting the enemies coming from all directions. How could they concentrate their firepower on the Fang King? The Fang King casually raised the purple gold thunder god's drum in his hand and several southern summer soldiers surrounding him were turned to ashes by the lightning. The burning sun ruler said to Meng Qingwu beside him, "You guys retreat first and defend the royal palace." Chen Bingyu brought Meng Qingwu away from the battlefield. This battle was not something they could interfere with. The Fang King did not chase and he disdained chasing because the only people worthy of being his opponent in the entire imperial city were these 2. The burning sun ruler and the refined ruler did not say a word as they attacked the Fang King at the same time. The entire city walls exploded. 3 true Spirit Realm experts fiercely clashed and the destructive power of this level of battle was very shocking. Large pieces of the city walls collapsed and the scene turned into a chaotic mess. At this time, 3 figures flew out at the same time and landed on the ruins. Both sides had only exchanged a few moves, but the refined ruler and the burning sun ruler were both injured, while the Fang King did not seem to have any injuries at all. He still had a relaxed appearance and just from this point, it could be seen how big the difference in strength was. The Fang King said with a laugh of ridicule, "The 3 rulers of the southern summer country only have this much strength?" At this time, they were surrounded by the Warhound's army on all sides. The burning sun ruler and the refined ruler looked at each other. "Retreat!" The 2 of them retreated and several Warhound's plains chiefs chased after them, but they were stopped by the Fang King. The Fang King calmly said, "There is no need to worry about 2 true spirit cultivators. Our mission is to take down the southern summer imperial city. Even if the Tsang state cavalry arrives, they won't be able to turn the situation around. No matter what tricks the other side plays, victory will still belong to us in the end. You will lead the troops to sweep through the southern summer army and destroy their last resistance." The Fang King's eyes were as cold as ice. As for these people, it doesn't matter if they live for a few more hours. Chapter 336. Chu Tian had been in a state of chaos for the past few days. He felt like he was floating in an empty space and there were some cryptic and profound sounds lingering in his ears, sometimes near and sometimes far, sometimes strong and sometimes weak. Chu Tian felt like his entire body was immersed in chaos and he was sinking into a bottomless abyss. However, at that moment, a towering and majestic demon god appeared in the endless darkness. This demon god had 9 eyes, and each eye had a different color. Each color represented a profound power in the world, and each eye seemed to contain the great Tao of heaven and earth. White was space, silver was time, green was life, black was death, purple was the soul, and gold was divine sense. The 9 eyes each represented an extraordinary power. The 9-eyed demon god was a supreme being that had 9 kinds of power outside of elemental energy. Chu Tian was very familiar with the nine-eyed demon god's power because he was Chu Tian and Chu Tian was him. It was just a reincarnation. However, what surprised Chu Tian the most was that the nine-eyed demon god felt very unfamiliar to him at this moment. This was because there was another eye on the nine-eyed demon god's body. This eye was closed the entire time, but it was releasing an incredible power. This eye is... Chu Tian felt like the 10th eye was about to open and an irresistible power covered him, pulling Chu Tian out of the abyss of his consciousness. Was this just a dream? When Chu Tian woke up, he was covered in sweat. The 10th eye was the power sealed by the nameless ancient god, and the nameless ancient god had warned Chu Tian to not open this eye easily, otherwise there would be unimaginable consequences. What kind of power did this eye represent? Chu Tian felt a strong headache. Although he had rested for several days and his body hadn't recovered, his spiritual energy had gradually returned to normal. At least he could get out of bed and walk. Ying, why is it so noisy outside? Chu Tian, you're finally awake. Meng Ying had a worried expression as she looked out the window. When she heard Chu Tian's voice, she immediately turned around in pleasant surprise, but then she said in a worried and fearful voice, Southern Xia's army has been defeated again and the warhounds have killed their way into Imperial City. All the soldiers and civilians have surrendered and are fighting to the death, causing the entire Imperial City to fall into chaos. What? He was defeated again. Chu Tian immediately sat up. What the hell are these Southern Xia troops doing? The front lines fell because of a sneak attack. It's understandable that they weren't prepared, but how did King City fall as well? Meng Ying gave a sigh. I don't know, elder sister won't let me go out. However, I heard elder sister Nangong say that it was the departing Flame Marquis who betrayed us and led the Warhounds' army into the city through a secret passage. They worked together to break the city. Another traitor? Chu Tian felt a headache. If even Imperial City fell, wouldn't Southern Xia be finished? Like this, what would happen to the miracle commerce that Chu Tian had spent half a year to build? Where are we? Chu Tian found that this place was not the miracle commerce headquarters. The royal palace. For safety, elder sister ordered her subordinates to destroy the Yun sect research facility in Imperial City and burned the headquarters. Then she brought the other people from miracle commerce to the royal palace. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler still have over 100,000 soldiers fighting to the death, using the royal palace as a stronghold. However, there are too many enemies, I think. Imperial City can't be defended. We need to discuss a retreat plan. Quickly come with me. Before he finished, the door was pushed open and Meng Qingwu quickly walked in. When she saw Chu Tian sitting up, she revealed a surprised expression. Chu Tian, you woke up at the right time. Chu Tian did not know what had happened recently. Did you just say retreat? What do you mean? There's no time to explain right now. Every minute is more dangerous. Meng Qingwu quickly said to Meng Ying, quickly, let's go to the main hall. The main hall of the palace was not as glorious and peaceful as it usually was. At this moment, it was filled with armored warriors. Looking out from the main hall, half of the city was burning. The thick black smoke had long covered the entire sky. Chu Tian saw several familiar faces, like the Burning Sun ruler, the Refined ruler, Gu Qianqiu, Shen Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Four Direction Marquis, and others. Everyone was bathed in blood and covered in wounds. When everyone saw Chu Tian, they revealed a complex expression. Chu Tian weakly said, the general situation, I've already heard about it. Now that Imperial City has fallen, there are only a few 100,000 soldiers left to defend the royal palace. I'm afraid we won't be able to stop the warhounds for long, so it's too late to do anything now. Have you thought about how to retreat? The Burning Sun ruler stomped his chest in regret. The fall of Imperial City is all this ruler's fault. How could the Nangong family give birth to such an unfilial son? The situation is already lost. It's too late to regret. The Refined ruler had a defeated look on his face at this moment. The southern summer country's north can't be defended. The Imperial region, Song State, and the departing Flame Marquis Furnace State will be lost, but the southern summer country has 6 states in the south. Each state has an average of over 100,000 soldiers, as well as the tens of thousands of miles of mountains and the 4 states' lake as a barrier. Perhaps they can stop the war hounds from swallowing the southern summer country. What we need to do now is to try our best to preserve the southern summer country's strength and defend the 6 southern states. There was really no way to reverse the current situation. The Fong king had experts like clouds and his army had an overwhelming advantage. Imperial City had already fallen and was in chaos, being heavily damaged. Now that things had developed to this point, not to mention it was impossible to turn defeat into victory, even if they created a miracle and drove away the Warhound's army. So what? The front lines had collapsed and Imperial City had been destroyed. Was there any meaning in the Imperial region like this? At this moment, it was better to preserve their strength and move to the south, using their geographical advantage to block the Warhound's invasion. The problem was how to move. The sounds of fighting outside were becoming more and more intense. The Burning Sun ruler said, "The Dongfang family has a secret passage in the royal palace. The eldest prince Dongfang Haoren has the authority to open it and knows how to open it. Now I ask the great scholar, the country-guarding ruler, and the dukes to bring the remaining 1,000 royal knights and 20,000 elites of the 3 races to leave Imperial City through the passage. Of the 6 southern states, Central State has the best position and can become the new center of southern Xia, preserving the last bloodline of the southern Xia tribes." Dongfang Haoren was also covered in blood as he immediately walked out. Understood. If this many people evacuate, will the Warhounds not care? The Burning Sun ruler revealed a determined expression, "Leave in peace. The refined ruler and I will lead the last of Imperial City's elites and fight the Warhounds to the last moment. With us stalling for time here, they won't be able to chase after you." The meaning behind these words was that the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler were prepared to fight to the end. Why must the 2 rulers defend a broken city to the death? Gu Qianqiu immediately said, "Where there's life, there's hope." The Burning Sun ruler decisively said, "The fall of Imperial City is this ruler's greatest crime. I have let down the Nangong families Lai Zhu and the countless heroes of southern Xia. Only a bloody battle can redeem myself. This ruler has already decided to bring the Nangong family's direct descendants to defend, and the Nangong family's branch families and youths under 20 will all be managed by Nangong Yun. From today on, Nangong Yun will be a new member of the Nangong family. I hope that we can treat the Nangong family's descendants well and let the phoenix be reborn in flames." Because of the departing Flame Marquis betrayal, the Burning Sun ruler was filled with guilt, so he decided to stay behind to buy time for everyone. This was understandable, but why did the refined ruler stay behind? There weren't many true spirit realm experts in southern Xia. Southern Xia's information system is managed by the Shangguan family. The Warhound plains changed and the Warhound's army suddenly attacked, but this ruler did not notice it at all, causing southern Xia to fall into disaster. The root of this is the Shangguan family's fault. The refined ruler said with a heavy expression, "This ruler has led the Shangguan family for several decades, but I have only been obsessed with power and benefits. I have forgotten the teachings of my ancestors and abandoned my duty. This ruler is incompetent. The Shangguan family's foundation is in Imperial City, so how could they be fine now that their nest has fallen? The Shangguan family is guilty, so we will fight to the last moment." These 2 people made Chu Tian suddenly understand something. The calm martial ruler had said that the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler were different from the other families he had met. Chu Tian did not understand at that time, but now he knew what he was referring to. From these 2 noble rulers, Chu Tian saw something normal families did not have: honor and dignity. As rulers of the southern summer country, even if they knew they would die, they would still fight to the last moment. "Chu Tian." A low and deep voice sounded in his ears. The Western Marquis was holding a pen dripping with blood as he looked at him. "To be honest, I still hate you to the bone, but it's a pity that I won't have a chance to take revenge. If you are a southern summer man, you will shoulder your responsibilities. Otherwise, even if I turn into an evil spirit in the underworld, I will not let you off." The sound of the walls collapsing came from the royal palace. The Burning Sun ruler shouted at everyone, "Retreat, otherwise it will be too late. The overall situation is important." The refined ruler also said, "Let's go." Chu Tian cupped his hands to the two of them. Today's disaster is not only a humiliation for everyone, it is also a humiliation for me, Chu Tian. Today I, Chu Tian, swear that there will be a day when the Warhound's plains will be flattened. The Burning Sun ruler gave a laugh. "It's enough with your words. The Warhound's kingdom's destruction is just around the corner. My king has given you the title of country-guarding ruler in this crisis. It is clear that he has high hopes for you. Now that southern Xia is in danger, I hope that the ruler can withstand the collapse of the southern summer country in this critical moment." The refined ruler walked in front of Chu Tian. "The grudge between you and the Shangguan family will be written off by this ruler. Please treat the Shangguan family's descendants well. Let's go. It will be too late if we don't leave now." Gu Qianxiu said to Dongfang Haoren, "Quickly, open the secret passage." The youths and branches of the three great clans, the Griffin Knights, the important scholars, and geniuses, there were a total of 20,000 people. They first went to the royal palace treasury to move the things that could be moved, and the things that couldn't be moved were burned down. Finally, under Dongfang Haoren's lead, they left through the royal palace's secret passage. Hong Dong Dong. The royal palace doors slowly opened. The Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler looked at the southern summer imperial city in flames as well as the dense Warhound's army. Their hearts were filled with emotions. They never would have thought that the bustling city from a few days ago would have this kind of earth-shattering change in just a few short nights. The southern summer country that had rested for several decades had been completely burned down by a single fire. The southern summer king was dead. The frontline marshal Dongfang Haoren was dead. Next was the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler. "Old man Nangong, we are a bit unwilling to end things like this." "That's right, we are too unwilling. But we are old, so we'll leave the future to the youths. At least we can leave in a beautiful manner, our lives won't be in vain. Let's go." The two true spirit experts flew into the air at the same time, leading the experts of the three great clans and their final army to attack the Warhound's army one last time. Fighting like cornered beasts, each person had the determination to die. The Warhound's army suffered a fierce attack, and the fierce battle lasted for half a day. The next morning, the flames of battle gradually calmed down. The Fang king stood in the ruined royal palace and looked over the entire imperial city. From today onwards, this land would be completely conquered by him. Reporting to the Fang king, Dongfang Zhan, Shangguan Cengfeng, and Nangong Yan's corpses have already been buried in Imperial City. Good. Wang Tianlong anxiously charged in and said, "We haven't found the corpses of Chu Tian's group." "What are you nervous about?" A Warhound's chief said in an uncaring voice. "In this kind of battle, it is normal for the corpses to be destroyed." "Impossible." Wang Tianlong had a premonition. "He is most likely still alive." The Warhound soldiers did not care. So what if he was alive? The southern summer imperial city had been captured and the elites had all been killed. What else could they do to turn things around? The Fang king thought about it and said, "I'll give you the vulture group, search for their whereabouts." It was too late. The escape route Meng Qingwu had left was now in use. At this time, at Song State's ferry, the giant shark gang fleet she had arranged ahead of time was already waiting. The younger generation of the three great clans and the important talents of Imperial City were currently boarding in an orderly manner. Meng Qingwu looked at the hazy sky and her heart was very heavy. She never thought that they would leave Imperial City like this. Chapter 337. On the day of Imperial City's fall, there was a sudden storm. This bad weather made it harder to chase, but it was the only blessing the heavens had for southern Xia. The giant shark gang's warship passed through Song State and smoothly entered the Four States Lake. After reaching the Four States Lake, there was no need to worry about the warhounds pursuing them. Cuckoo. Chu Tian was wearing a coat as he sat on the bumpy warship. There was an electric lamp in front of him as he drew up one blueprint after another. His body had clearly not recovered and there was no blood on his face, looking very weak. Chu Tian understood his injuries better than anyone else. To kill the true spirit realm expert Malim, he had paid a large price, but it didn't matter. As long as he didn't die, Chu Tian had many methods to make up for it. Meng Yingying pushed open the door and walked in, holding 2 cans of hot food. Your injuries haven't healed yet, I think you should rest early. You want to beat Master Chu Tian with these injuries? How could it be that easy? Chu Tian gave a laugh, looking like he was very relaxed. He looked out the window at the pitch-black lake and had a ruffian look on his face. Father has never been chased by anyone before and I was actually chased away by these lowly spirit beasts. What kind of bullshit Fong King is this? Just wait and see, I'll get my revenge no matter what. This was the Chu Tian that Yingying knew. When Meng Yingying saw Chu Tian like this, if it wasn't for Zhao Pu and Gu Qianxiu's repeated reminders, she would have thought that Chu Tian had fully recovered. This fellow was clearly half dead, but he was still thinking about revenge. It really made people feel helpless. Save it, save it. Meng Yingying handed a can of food to Chu Tian and snappily said, I think you should properly heal yourself and think of a way to save your little life and miracle commerce first before thinking about revenge. Chu Tian was very confident in miracle commerce, but any genius or great existence would easily die before they fully matured. Moreover, the continent was chaotic and turbulent. It was not easy to survive in this chaotic world. However, it was also because of this that Chu Tian wanted to establish miracle commerce. Miracle commerce could not only provide Chu Tian with a large number of resources, but it could also provide protection to Chu Tian and the people around Chu Tian as he grew stronger. Miracle commerce had been developing smoothly until now, but it had suffered an unprecedented setback when it tried to expand to the north of Royal City. This meant that miracle commerce was not strong enough. However, Chu Tian secretly swore that he would not let something like this happen again. After the battle at Royal City, southern Xia had basically been destroyed by more than half. Its territory had shrunk by a quarter, and its elite forces had been severely damaged. The armies of the 6 southern states added together could not compare to an imperial region. So, after the war hounds conquered the north, they would continue to invade the southern summer country. The crisis had not been resolved and the situation was still very serious. But Meng Yingying still had confidence in Chu Tian. In fact, Meng Yingying was the one who blindly believed in Chu Tian out of everyone here. The attack on the front lines was too sudden and Chu Tian did not have time to react. When Imperial City was attacked, Chu Tian was unconscious, so he had no choice but to run away. The situation was different now. Central State was the origin of miracle commerce and Chu Tian had enough time to prepare. This time the war hounds would not be facing southern Xia, but rather the miracle commerce led by Chu Tian. The giant shark gang fleet arrived at the Central State port. Everyone disembarked. In just a few months, Central State had undergone earth-shattering changes. There were several industrial parks on the outskirts of the city and over 1,000 large ships were docked at the port at the same time. There were also countless large airships flying in the sky. This bustling scene was not inferior to Imperial City at all. The tense situation in the north did not seem to have spread to this place. Central State City was still rich and busy. The Meng Qingwu sisters, Nangong Yun, and Chen Bingyu all sighed. They never thought that they would come back this quickly. But there was no time to reminisce. The war hounds would first attack Central State. Once Central State fell, not only would there be no hope for southern Xia, miracle commerce would also be uprooted. Chu Tian would not allow this to happen. He came to the Central State Yun sect and gathered everyone. If my guesses aren't wrong, in 10 days or half a month, the war hounds will attack Central State through the waterways. The high-level people of Imperial City and Central State were all gathered together, listening to Chu Tian's words with serious expressions. There were several thousand miles of mountains in the north of Central State and it would not be easy for the war hounds to cross them. The best way was to steal southern Xia's warships and attack Central State City through the waterways. The war hounds have lived in the war hound plains for generations and fighting on water is not their specialty. We have the advantage. But this advantage is not enough because the Warhounds will receive the support of the Eagle Burial Kingdom's Air Force and use the Air Force to cover the Water Force. If it's like this, we will be at a complete disadvantage with our lacking Air Force. Chu Tian ordered, I declare that from now on, the entire state will be under military control and all resources will be used for battle. Not only do we need to win this battle, we need to win a beautiful victory. Everyone was filled with worry. Did they really have a chance of winning? The Imperial region had over 100 soldiers, gathering half of Southern Xia's military strength. In terms of battle strength, it was around 80% of Southern Xia's strength, and there was also the front line that Southern Xia had spent several generations to build. Even with this kind of strong defense, it would still fall in a week. The difference in strength between the Warhounds and Southern Xia was too large. Even if the southern states could rely on the mountains and rivers to defend, in front of a strong power, what use would a defensive line have? Relax, once the Warhounds come to Central State, I will make it so that they won't be able to return. Chu Tian had half a month to prepare. Although it seemed very rushed, it was actually more than enough. We will use all the power of the Yunsek's laboratory and the industrial foundation that Miracle Commerce has built in Central State in the last half year to create several new weapons for Central State. The scholars whispered to each other and revealed expressions of interest. Yun Tianhe asked in a curious voice, what weapon does the chairman want to invent? Chu Tian first showed a blueprint. When the Yunsect scholars saw this blueprint, they all felt it was very familiar because this blueprint was very similar to the source energy bombs they had made before. Only Chu Tian had made a large number of modifications, making the source energy bombs look very complete. That's right, this is the source energy bomb. I have modified and improved the Yunsec's bombs, making it more controllable and safer. Other than that, I have developed several crude oil refining techniques that will allow us to make even more powerful and destructive heavy explosives. Everyone's mood was slightly excited. The battle in Imperial City was too rushed and Miracle Commerce had just entered Imperial region, so the infrastructure and equipment were not complete. Although Meng Qingwu wanted to use the source energy bombs, she didn't have the ability to make more. Even so, it had a large effect and left a deep impression on everyone. Now the situation was different. Central State was the birthplace of Miracle Commerce. Miracle Commerce had been developing in Central State for an entire half a year and now it had a preliminary industrial scale. Whether it was resources or production, it could not be compared to Imperial City. Chu Tian showed several blueprints that he had thought of on the way back to the warship. This is a single soldier source energy bomb. It's made from highly concentrated crude oil and its specialty is that it can be carried and used by a single soldier. It doesn't have a wide range, but it has a large destructive power. I named it Source Energy Grenade. The Source Energy Grenade was very simple to make and it did not have a large range. It was mainly used by soldiers on the battlefield and was used to kill enemies from a distance. As long as a Source Energy Grenade landed on an enemy, even a true Soul Realm expert would be heavily injured or even killed. Other than that, using a simple catapult to launch the bomb cannot guarantee its safety. Moreover, the efficiency and accuracy are too low. Chu Tian showed another design idea. We need to make a more accurate source energy bomb launcher. Not only does it have an automatic firing process, it can also be more precise. Different launchers can fire different bombs, so we can achieve a stronger killing effect. Chu Tian listed several more plans. The source energy bomb could be combined with crossbow bolts, the bomb could be made into arrows, and there were also floating mines. Everyone gasped in amazement. Genius, what was called a genius? Chu Tian's plans were all given to the Yunsek's design department. As for how much they could complete, it all depended on luck. Chu Tian was only responsible for improving the bomb. As for whether it could be used in weapons, that would depend on Miracle Commerce's current research ability. As for the source energy bomb, I've finished introducing it. Chu Tian then changed the topic. The source energy bomb is very strong, but with our current technology and resources, the source energy bomb we can make can only threaten awakened soul realm cultivators. It is a limited threat to true spirit realm cultivators. Other than that, we have flaws in range and other aspects, So we need to design a stronger and more powerful weapon to deal with true spirit realm cultivators. Actually, the effect of the source energy bomb was already very shocking. Central State's current resources and production was enough to produce large amounts of bombs before the Warhound's army moved south. This could change the situation of the battle. Could it be that Chu Tian had an even stronger weapon? Chu Tian took out a giant blueprint and everyone was stunned. This blueprint looked like a source energy pistol, but it was much larger. Just the barrel was over 4 meters long and the structure was incomparably complex. There were at least 4 magazines designed to supply energy. It looked just like an enlarged source energy pistol. The source energy array used in it, whether it was the complexity or the level, it was not something current source energy firearms could compare to. Everyone look carefully. This is the new weapon Miracle Commerce will be developing. Chu Tian pointed at the blueprint and introduced it. As you can see, this weapon is several dozen times larger than the source energy firearms. I'll call it the source energy cannon. The might of a source energy cannon is around 200 times that of the source energy pistol. 200 times the power? What kind of concept was that? Even with the protective spirit energy of a true spirit realm expert, it would be hard for them to take a few shots without being injured. This time, it wasn't just the Yun sect scholars, even the laymen who didn't understand were shocked. Once this weapon appeared, it would be a super terrifying killing weapon. A single shot would be able to pierce through the enemy's battleship, and even a true spirit expert would find it hard to block this kind of attack. Chapter 338. The source energy cannons have 100 times the power of the source energy guns, but the energy consumption is also 100 times higher. Not only does it require a high-energy magazine, it also requires the materials needed to make the source energy cannons. With our current battery technology, weapon refining technology, and the materials we have on hand, I'm afraid it will be hard to meet the requirements. Chu Tian did not care about Yun Tianhe's question at all. There's no need to worry. I've already thought of a method to refine high-strength crystal oil while I was in Imperial City. The Central State battery base and the military base barely meet the requirements. As for the materials, when we left Imperial City, we brought out several hundred-year-old metals that can withstand the energy of the source energy cannons. Chu Tian also proposed a heavy firearm. This kind of firearm was also made from a very expensive rare metal. Its specialty was that it could withstand high speeds for a long time, so it was suitable to be used to create a high-capacity, high-firing rate, and long-lasting firearm. Whether it was the source energy cannons or the heavy source energy guns, they were all weapons of mass destruction. This had a very high requirement for technology and materials, so Chu Tian had to personally participate in the research to ensure that it could be produced before the Warhounds attacked. The Yun sect already had a very strong research ability. Now that the Imperial City Yun sect and the Central State Yun sect had merged, their strength naturally increased by several times. Several hundred top scholars worked day and night, several dozen experimental fields were operating at the same time, and several thousand people from the Yun sect were participating. After many experiments and calculations, it only took a few days for the results to appear. Several dozen airships went back and forth between Central State and South Sky City, transporting large amounts of refined crystal oil from the oil fields. Miracle Commerce's 5 crystal oil warehouses in the main city were filled to the brim. When they had enough materials, the several factories began to operate at the same time. Over 10,000 workers and over 1,000 array masters began to work. Meng Qingwu personally went to the factories to inspect the situation. There was a fist-sized object that had already been produced several hundred times. It was perfectly round like a fruit and was covered in runes and lines. It was filled with highly compressed crystal oil and there was a red button at the top. As long as this button was pressed, the source energy battery would activate the array, causing the crystal oil inside to explode. This was the elemental energy grenade. The structure was not complicated and it was easy to produce. Because it was small, each soldier could carry 1 or 2 and it would have a terrifying effect on the battlefield. Even if one was thrown onto an expert in the 8th or 9th awakened soul layer, it would still cripple them. In the source energy weapon warehouse, there were a total of 50,000 source energy firearms, of which there were over 5,000 source energy submachine guns. This was far more than the weapons stored in Imperial City. This batch of weapons was enough to make up for the lack of quality and strength of the Central State Army. Not bad. When Meng Qingwu saw the neatly arranged weapons, her heart filled with confidence. At this time, the giant shark gang gave Meng Qingwu a piece of good news. After the Warhounds Kingdom's Fang King captured Imperial City, he wanted to immediately attack the Calm Martial Ruler's army, but the Calm Martial Ruler attacked the 3 northern ports, taking away all the warships. Even if he didn't take away the ships, the docks were all burned down. Now the Calm Martial Ruler is leading the remaining 300,000 Southern Summer Cavalry to meet us from the north. The Central State Army was small and weak, so the Calm Martial Ruler had come at the right time. The Calm Martial Ruler had the highest status of the Southern Summer 3 rulers. He was a person that could support half of the Southern Summer country, not to mention that he had brought a large group of elites to Central State. The Calm Martial Ruler had not only taken all the ships, he had also burned down the ports. This was without a doubt to delay the Warhounds' attack, giving Chu Tian a chance in Central State. Immediately prepare to welcome them. Meng Qingwu brought a group of people from Miracle Commerce to the Central State Port. First they cleared out most of the port and docks, then they built a temporary army camp. 2 days later, several hundred large warships appeared in front of them. The Calm Martial Ruler had brought 280,000 elite cavalry to Central State this time, with most of them being the Storm Cavalry. This was one of the strongest main forces of Southern Xia. Southern Xia's 400,000 cavalry was the most important battle force, with half of them in Imperial City and the other half in Song State. If this army was not on duty when the battle began, it was unknown if the Fang King's army could capture Imperial City. Now that this army had come to Central State, they would be a great help in defending Central State. The fall of the Imperial region was a large blow to the Calm Martial Ruler. But the Calm Martial Ruler did not seem angry or flustered, rather he seemed very calm. As the commander-in-chief of the Southern Xia army, he was very good at hiding his emotions. Southern Xia's disaster, the Calm Martial Ruler clearly blamed himself. He did not see through the Warhounds' true intentions in invading Song State. When the Warhounds' army entered Song State, it looked like they were heading for Song State's main city and they deliberately revealed their intentions to attack the farms, but this was all a cover. The true goal was to drag the Northern Cavalry into a quagmire, making them temporarily useless and allowing the Fang King to personally lead the army into Southern Xia. This was not the Calm Martial Ruler's fault. Southern Xia's intelligence was clearly lagging behind. They did not know that the Warhounds' planes had been unified and they did not know that there was a Spirit Beast Kingdom supporting the Warhounds' Kingdom. The new Fang King was an experienced general and had a deep understanding of the Southern Xia army. In this situation where the intelligence was not equal, the Calm Martial Ruler could not do anything. After all, he was not a prophet. The previous king has given his orders. Gu Qianqiu respectfully said, "We ask the Calm Martial Ruler, Dongfang Gan, to inherit the Southern Summer King's throne." The surrounding soldiers all knelt down. Whether it was prestige, fame, or background, the Calm Martial Ruler was worthy of this position. Now that Southern Xia was on the verge of collapse, they needed a leader to give orders. Who would have thought that the Calm Martial Ruler would coldly say, "How can a general be the Southern Summer King? This ruler will not accept the throne. Dongfang Haoren inheriting it is the proper way." If it was anyone else saying this, people would think it was fake, but the Calm Martial Ruler's character was known by the entire country. He was like another Dongfang Zhan. Although he had a high status, he had no interest in material comforts. When the previous Southern Summer King was choosing between the two princes, he preferred the decisive Dongfang Gan. Who would have thought that when Dongfang Gan learned that his royal father wanted to pass the throne to him, he would lead his troops to fight the Warhounds without a single word? Dongfang Gan's actions were telling the previous king that his ambitions were on the battlefield and not in the palace. The previous king could only helplessly pass the throne to Dongfang Hao. Dongfang Hao had great ambitions and was not a virtuous king, but he was very tactful and shrewd. He was skilled in the heart of a king, So the governance of southern Xia over the years was not bad. Now that Dongfang Hao was dead, was Dongfang Gan not willing to become the southern summer king? The great scholar said with a calm expression, "The prince is talented, but he is too young and lacks experience on the battlefield. Without any experience in governing, how can he take the throne? Southern Xia is in a special period now. I ask the calm martial ruler to not decline. We ask the king to immediately ascend the throne. We ask the king to immediately ascend the throne." Everyone began to loudly shout out. Dongfang Gan tightly knit his brows as he said, "If I become the king, who will fight? The southern summer king does not need a king, but rather a general that can sweep through the war hounds." The calm martial ruler's words are wrong. Meng Qingwu opened her mouth to say, "A national war is related to the fate of the country. With the king personally leading the army, it will raise the morale of the army. As long as we can pass this calamity, we won't need to worry about counterattacking in the future. Prince Dongfang Haoren is not even 30 years old and can already break through to the peak 9th awakened soul layer. It is better to let him grow with the country guarding ruler, becoming a country protecting pillar that is not inferior to the calm martial ruler in the future. On the other hand, if the prince ascends the throne early, not only will his strength not convince the people, it will also delay the prince's growth. How could the calm martial ruler bear this? The calm martial ruler ascends the throne to two benefits, but the calm martial ruler not ascending the throne is a mistake, so please reconsider." Gu Qianqiu praised Meng Qingwu. She really was worthy of being the beautiful and intelligent vice-chairman of Miracle Commerce. These kind of reasonable words were much more useful than these people. The calm martial ruler gave a sigh and finally agreed. Dongfang Gan was escorted by the army and finally carried out a simple coronation ceremony in Central State. From now on, Central State City would be the imperial city. After Dongfang Gan ascended the throne, he immediately issued several royal proclamations. First, Dongfang Haoren was given the title of calm martial ruler, inheriting the title left behind by the southern summer king Dongfang Gan. Of course, it was only in name. Dongfang Haoren did not have much battle experience and his strength was not strong enough, so he could not control the army for southern summer. The military power was still in Dongfang Gan's hands. Second, the country guarding ruler Chu Tian was given the title of Marquis Xuanji, being a first-class marquis. He had the right to mobilize the armies of the 6 states and manage the 6 marquises. The marquises of each county had to be led by the country guarding ruler. Third, Meng Qingwu killed the Helsong tribe's vice-chief Malim and was given the title of Southern Summer Marquis. She was given the title of Cloud Dream Marquis, becoming the Marquis of Southern State. Out of these 3 royal proclamations, 2 of them were royal proclamations for Miracle Commerce. Chu Tian added a Southern Summer Marquis title on top of his sovereign title, and it was a first-class marquis with real power. This was something that had never happened in Southern Summer's history. Other than Chu Tian, Meng Qingwu had also obtained a Southern Summer Marquis title, being given the Southern State Army that the Western Marquis had guarded. This was the first female marquis title in Southern Summer in several hundred years. Regarding this, no one had any objections. The 3 great clans could not recover from the imperial city and the other large clans had either escaped, died, or returned to the warhounds, so how could they care about this? Among the marquises of Southern Summer, other than the new Cloud Dream Marquis Meng Qingwu, the Greenwood Marquis, the Golden Arrow Marquis, and Shen Fengho were all people on Chu Tian's side. The great scholar Gu Qianqiu was also on Chu Tian's side. The new imperial city and central state were Chu Tian's territory. Therefore, from the marquis to the common people, no one objected to this and they were all very excited. Chu Tian being placed in an important position by Southern Xia was a very good thing for Southern Xia. After Dongfang Gan announced the royal proclamations, he wanted to go to the Yun sect to find Chu Tian. In the end, before he could even move, news came from the Yun sect. Chu Tian had overworked himself these past few days, causing his old injuries to flare up. He could only rest in bed and could not continue working. This time, Miracle Commerce and Southern Xia were all in a panic. They had finally waited for the calm martial ruler to inherit the throne. In the end, something had happened to Chu Tian, so what should they do? In the hearts of the Central State people, Chu Tian's position was not inferior to the calm martial rulers. As long as Chu Tian was here, nothing was impossible, but once Chu Tian fell, wouldn't everyone lose confidence? What should they do? Find a medicine. They had to find a medicine. Meng Qingwu decided to use all of Miracle Commerce's channels and buy an immortal herb at any cost. In just a short night, the news of Miracle Commerce buying an immortal herb to save Chu Tian spread throughout the kingdom. However, once the news was released, it disappeared without a trace. Chapter 339. When time turned back 10 days, before Imperial City had fallen, the elf Aubersen left Imperial City and rode his dragon hawk beast south. He passed through Central State, Qing State, and Southern State before arriving in an endless primitive forest. An entire tens of thousands of miles was covered in forest, as if it had not been developed since ancient times. There were large amounts of unimaginably terrifying vicious beasts living here, with level 3 demon beasts being common. Whether it was the southern summer country or the warhounds country, this was a wild area that could not be developed. Aubersen recklessly charged into the territory of these vicious beasts, but he ignored the warning and hostile roars coming from all around him. None of the vicious beasts dared to attack him. These vicious beasts did not have high intelligence, but they could tell who was strong and who was weak. Even if he didn't count the unfathomable Aubersen, the dragon hawk he was riding was a powerful third-level demon beast. Its wings were 10 meters long and its body was covered in red dragon scales. It had the claws and head of an eagle, and the sharp aura it released was enough to deter most vicious beasts. When Aubersen passed through the endless mountains, traces of civilization began to appear. He arrived in the sky above an emerald forest. Although this was also a forest, there was a clear difference compared to other areas. The forest's colors were bright and beautiful, and it was full of vitality. Every tree gave people the feeling that they weren't just plants, but living creatures. The entire forest covered an area of over 100 miles. Towering trees that were over 100 meters tall could be found everywhere. Each tree was comparable to a skyscraper in the human world. The holes in the trees had been transformed into wooden windows, and exquisite treehouses were hung outside. It's Elder Aubersen. Elder Aubersen is back. The dragon hawk flying through the forest attracted the attention of a few elves, but when the elves saw the person on the dragon hawk, they immediately let down their guard. They put down the bows in their hands and began to cheer. These elves were hidden in the forest, almost merging with the forest. If they did not show themselves, it was almost impossible to detect them. Aubersen jumped down and fell down from 200 meters in the air, but he was like a light leaf as he passed through the branches of the trees. He grabbed a vine and gently swung down, falling onto a carpet of grass. Elder Aubersen, you're finally back. Is everything all right in the tribe recently? Have the ogres in the north stopped? How are the lizard men in the south? Has the hot-tempered mountain giant woken up? Don't worry, everything is normal. Silhouettes jumped out from the surrounding trees one after another. They were as gentle and beautiful as butterflies, and in a short while, they covered his entire body. The elves were different from humans. There was a huge difference in the appearance and size of humans. The fat ones could be as fat as a ball, the skinny ones could be as thin as a bamboo pole, the beautiful ones could be devastatingly beautiful, and the ugly ones could be comparable to the devil. There were no elves who were too fat, too skinny, or too ugly. Almost every female elf would be a top-notch beauty among humans. It was precisely because of this that the elves became one of the races that produced the most beautiful and handsome men on the continent. Aubersen was a very popular person in the tribe because of Aubersen's special status. The elves were a very closed-off race, and most elves were not allowed to participate in worldly affairs, so the elves were very closed off to the outside world. Aubersen's duty was to wander around and collect information about the surrounding countries. Every time he went out, he would be gone for a year or two, and every time he came back, he would bring back interesting news and customs from different countries. Because of this, the young men and women of the elves liked to pester him. Aubersen gave a very friendly greeting. "Hello, everyone. Hey, Uncle Aubersen. At this time, a clear and melodious voice rang out. To Aubersen, this voice was simply synonymous with the devil. He felt a headache coming on, but he had no choice but to look up with a smile. Aya, isn't this little Princess Vivian? I haven't seen Vivian for a year and you've become even more beautiful. Aubersen had just looked up when he saw a pair of slender and beautiful legs. They were very white and slender, like they were carved from jade. It could be considered a perfect work of art, swinging back and forth on the swing. When did this girl come? Even with Aubersen's abilities, he didn't notice her at all, but Aubersen was already used to this. This was a very beautiful elf girl. She had the appearance of a 12 to 13-year-old human. She was wearing a dress made of tree leaves, and her dark green hair was adorned with an exquisite crown of flowers. Her small and exquisite face was extremely beautiful, and she looked like a fairy from the forest. Even in the elven race, this elven girl was a 1 in 10,000 great beauty. Humph, I won't listen to you. Little Princess Vivian disappeared from the swing and instantly appeared on the ground. She was holding a bright red fruit in her hand and with a kacha sound, she took a bite and juice splashed everywhere. Her sparkling eyes stared at Aubersen and she vaguely said, "Where is my present? You wouldn't have forgotten, right?" Aubersen quickly wiped his sweat. "Of course I wouldn't forget little Princess Vivian's arrangements. I believe you will like it this time." "Don't lie to me. You also said the same thing last time and the thing you brought back was some large warring kingdom's national treasure, a treasure left behind by an ancient divine race." In the end, I didn't like it at all. This time I passed by a small human country and found a very interesting thing. Although the value isn't high, you will definitely be satisfied. The little Princess Jade-like eyes lit up. She didn't want anything valuable, it was enough as long as it was interesting and fun. Aubersen took out the video disc player. "What kind of thing is this? Isn't it just a mirror?" "It's called a video disc player, a thing that can store sound and images. It is very interesting, I'll teach you how to use it." There are also many other things, magnetic sound machines, canned food, light bulbs, and etc. There will always be something you will like. Little Princess Vivian was a bit interested. "Then I'll take it back and try it out." The little princess lifted the video disc player with one hand and put the other things into her storage ring. When Aubersen let out a sigh of relief, the little princess suddenly turned around and glared at him. "If it isn't as magical as you say, or if it isn't fun at all, I'll go to your garden and pull out all the flowers and plants." Aubersen's body trembled. How could he do that? Those were his lifeblood. The little princess did not give Aubersen a chance to speak. Her figure swayed and she disappeared on the spot. Aubersen opened his mouth, but he didn't have time to say anything. He could only pray that the magical things the small southern summer country found would be enough to satisfy this little princess. The little princess' innate talent was very special, even Aubersen could not catch up to her. In just a few breaths of time, the little princess had already returned to her treehouse. "Everyone, quickly come and see." The little princess brought back something fun again. When the little princess returned to her treehouse, she immediately attracted a large group of elves. These elves were all younger than the little princess and there were several that looked like 4 5-year-old human children. They were currently biting their fingers as they innocently looked at her. "Big sister princess, what is this? Why haven't I seen it before?" The little princess had a very proud appearance. She stood in the middle of the countless little elves like a high king of children. This thing was brought back from the human world. This princess has never seen it before, so of course you haven't seen it before. Then how do we play with it? Here, don't be anxious. Let me slowly study it. What is this? It smells so good. A 6-year-old elf took out a can. Is this edible? Greedy ghost, you only know how to eat. The little princess said, Aubersen said that this is a can of human food and it tastes pretty good. Since we brought back quite a bit, we can all share it. The little princess had a very straightforward personality, which was why the children liked to play with her. In just a while, the several hundred cans Aubersen brought back were divided among the children. Pa! The little princess opened a can and immediately smelled an even stronger fragrance. This made the little princess feel very surprised. Could it be that humans could also cook demon beast meat? She had always thought that only the elves on the continent could cook demon beast meat. Delicious, too delicious. These elven children all ate with relish. Although the elves could cook demon beast meat, the elves usually ate vegetarian food and weren't very good at cooking meat. When they ate the food made by Miracle Commerce using source energy and human recipes, each of the elves was filled with praise. Was it really that delicious? The little princess opened a can of violent bear meat. The meat was delicious, it was chewy and the bones were chewy. This was truly a special delicacy. The little princess even drank all the soup and she suddenly felt a bit regretful. This kind of delicious thing, she shouldn't have told the others about it. But because of her face, she couldn't take it back. Little princess, how do you use this video disc player? Let me try. Vivian used the method Aubersen taught her to turn on the video disc player, and several dozen pairs of clear eyes stared at it. They saw the reflective surface of the mirror suddenly light up and images began to appear. These timid elves were all startled, and they all ran away in a puff of smoke. What is happening? Why can other worlds be seen in this mirror? My God, could this be the legendary planar mirror? That is an ancient era's divine weapon. The little princess was also very surprised at first. She had never encountered this kind of situation before. However, the little princess could feel that the energy fluctuations from this item were very weak, so it couldn't be a divine weapon. So she raised her hand and said, "Don't panic, this thing isn't dangerous." Everyone was skeptical, but they couldn't resist their curiosity. Several dozen little heads slowly gathered over, and when they saw the image being played, they all had a shocked expression on their faces. It was like they didn't dare believe what they were seeing at all. Exclamations and screams filled the air. What? There's a picture. It's moving inside. It's like it's connected to another world. What kind of technique is this? Some elves couldn't help touching it with their hands, but it was like touching a smooth and cold mirror. It was like a transparent glass was separating them from the other world. You're blocking me. Little Princess Vivian could not understand all of this. She loudly shouted, "Don't be noisy, don't be noisy. There's sound inside and I can't hear it anymore. If you don't listen to me, I won't show it to you." The elven children immediately became obedient. Everyone's eyes opened wide as they stared at the monster in front of them in a daze. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.